I made some I guess we'd call them software adjustments. Um,
Check one, check one, check one.
okay.
I wish I could get my voice back from before. My voice is not the same as it was before January
Yeah.
8th. I don't have the the bottom end, the resonance.
Yeah.
But it's funny when I go to I'm not going anymore, but when I went to speech therapy,
Uh-huh.
they listened to some podcasts from before and compared them to now, and it wasn't that different. But I can tell a huge difference.
Yeah. I can too. Okay.
Good audio tech should fix this for me.
Right. If we had one, we'd be in business. Okay. All right. Got that going.
Well, there we go. We're flashing now.
How much should an owner ops budget be for lot lizards? Well, let me get Richard on here and I'll find out how much he spends. I've got a story I'll tell here in a minute about test driving a customer's truck today.
Okay. Have you watched any of the groups today, Facebook groups?
I saw a response you had made. What I couldn't figure out was that an accident or on purpose? What was the word that you used?
Losers board.
Losers board. I didn't know if
that was on purpose.
Okay. I wasn't sure. Okay.
I thought about calling it the loaf board.
All right. We got one more minute.
There's been some other ones today that have been pretty, the opportunity's there. We just, I'm kind of burnt out of it.
Okay, so I can see that there. Boy, I was sitting somewhere the other day and I had my laptop and I had my external monitor, and this guy, truck driver, man, that must be a pain in the ass having two monitors. I said, no, what's a pain in the ass is I don't have three. That's my problem.
Yeah. What's pain in the ass? I don't have 55 inches in front of me.
Yeah. Because with what I've got going on right here.
His next question he didn't ask you was, your company make you do that?
Right. Hey, it's 8:00. Good evening, lunatics. It is Friday, August the 2nd.
It's Kentucky, and it's 8:00.
Yeah. So listen, I'm really excited about this episode because I've been wanting to do something like this for a while, but I didn't really have all the data that I really wanted to have. And since January, I've had a lot closer interaction with all the numbers, and
wonder why.
And I'm a nerd. And I will get geeked out with spreadsheets every once in a while. And so, basically we've had about 7 months of me doing these numbers and seeing everything every week. And it's allowed me to see some trends. And so probably 2 months ago, maybe 3, no, it was longer than that. Anyway, every Wednesday when I get done doing all the data entry and what we'll call bookkeeping, for lack of a better term, just I'm taking in all the data and I'm making sure everything goes where it's supposed to go. I've been publishing a profit leaderboard that I created, which shows everybody in the program where they are, what was their revenue and what was their fuel cost, and what about all of the different deductions from the settlements. And because we wanted them to see what was actually happening with the finances of that truck, because up to that point, I mean, they get their W-2 income, but they didn't see much more than that in a way that they could really understand. And so that was the whole point of doing this profit leaderboard every week. And we would see who was number one in profit. It wasn't necessarily who had the biggest revenue. It was at the end column, it was profit left over. And then everybody would be ranked. Well, after I did that for 2 or 3 months, I thought, well, what's it going to look like if I did 3 months worth of data? And so I've got spreadsheets connected to spreadsheets and all kind of geeky nerd stuff that most people don't care about, but I love. And so I have something to report. We have always said a couple of things. One, I'm going to correct because things have changed. But we have always told people that if you will operate a truck the way we tell you to, and you work full time, you should net taxable income operating a truck leased to a carrier paid for. You should net somewhere between $150,000 and $200,000 net after all expenses are paid.
That's what, by the way, that's what net means.
Yeah, that's what we have kind of preached. I need somebody to go kill the dog real quick.
He didn't say that. Hey, he didn't. We'll get community standards for that. Be careful.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So we've always said that. And we've also always said that you should budget about 15 cents per mile for maintenance, because over the years of us operating trucks, that's what the numbers were.
That was our number. Yeah, we didn't make it up. That was just our historical number.
Yeah, that was our historical data.
But that's changed.
That has changed. So I also, a couple of weeks ago, I nerded out and I went through 3 years of receipts on 5 trucks, 3 trucks that were old and 2 trucks that were new, like 04, 05, 06, and a 17 and an 18. And all I did was I took every receipt, every invoice that we have, and I just totaled up all the numbers and I divided it by the number of miles that truck had run that we had tracked. And I'm going to tell you that my new recommendation is 25 cents. Okay. Now, two of the trucks that I tracked this data on had engine rebuilds in there, which we would normally classify as major repairs.
We would separate those out. You know,
we would
separate our maintenance into 4 categories.
Right. But the 25 cents was pretty even across the board. So what I would tell you is, if you're starting today and you're a new owner operator, I want you saving more than you might actually use. Maybe you're going to do well and you're going to get in that 15 to 17, 18 cents per mile, but I want you saving 25. Okay.
Here's the thing. It's your money. So if you don't spend it, you still got it.
Correct.
So earmarking it is what we're talking about.
Correct.
You know, and the money's still in your possession and it's still under your control. And well, that unless you want to use some kind of voluntary escrow that the carriers offer you, which, you know, you can or cannot do. But anyway, the money is yours. And if you don't spend it, you can either pay yourself a bonus with it, or you can just keep it, roll it over until the year it is that you do spend it, because you are going to put that engine in eventually.
Right. Exactly. Now, let's talk about, 10 cents, you know, a dime, right? Doesn't seem like that big a deal, but you put 120 or 150,000 miles on a truck, you know, in a year, it's a big chunk of change. But let's talk about why. Okay. We always talk about the why. Well, number one, the quality of parts and service has gone down, while the prices of parts and service has gone up. And so we end up seeing repairs being done.
$3,000 starters and
$3,000 starters. Yeah. But we end up seeing repairs being done more than once, because either the part itself was bad or the person that installed the part did it incorrectly. Yeah. And so, it's just that's been the course of things over the last couple of years, of prices going up and quality going down. And so that's where we got to this 25 cents. So we're going to talk about how we've plugged this in to the numbers.
Can I interject something here that I think needs to be said? Look, you call it nerded out, but your ability to go back and have these numbers at your disposal is something that shouldn't just be taken for granted, because that's one of the primary things that we teach here, is having the data. The ability to go back and do what you did only exists because we have those numbers and we have the ability to recall them and get them in front of us.
Right.
So doing the analysis is one thing, which was great, by the way, and you're not nerding out, you're just being a good businessman.
Mhm.
But without having the data, you could never have done that, no matter how bad you wanted to do it. So
Right.
the data collection and storage is critical to this. Critical to this. You can't analyze anything if you don't have it in front of you. And the only way you have it is to collect it.
Yep.
So you have to become experts at data collection. That's what you got to nerd out on, is data collection. The
Yeah.
analysis is a bonus that you get from nerding down on the collection.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why a big part of our program is teaching those daily habits where you get a receipt. You don't stick it in your pocket and you don't lay it on your dash. You immediately, right now, you scan it, you get a digital copy of it. And if it blows out the window, no big deal. You've got a copy of it forever. We keep everything. There's nothing business related that we don't keep. We've got every email. We don't delete anything. We've got every freight bill. We've got every proof of delivery. We have every fuel receipt. Everything that is used to operate a truck, we keep a digital copy in cloud storage of everything, and it is accessible 24/7. But like Larry said, the only way
searchable
searchable.
and retainable,
Yeah. I mean,
obtainable. Yes.
and a good example of that is when I save a file. Let's say today, August 2nd, we had a chassis lube done at the TA. I'm going to name that file 8.2.24 TA. And then if it's 6 months from now and I'm trying to think through 6 or 7 trucks, man, didn't we buy that at Matheny Freightliner? And I go search for it
And
before.
we didn't include the truck number in the file because that particular file goes in a file of that truck number.
Right.
So we don't have to worry about the truck number on that invoice. It's filed in a folder just of that truck, just for clarification.
Yeah. Each truck has its own folder in our Dropbox. So we've talked about, we got to have the daily habits, because if it isn't written down, it did not happen. We've talked about being able to study the data because the data exists. Okay. And all this comes from daily habits. Now we need to talk a little bit about some vocabulary. Okay. I'm going to put this up on the screen. I got to do a little work here. I got to do this both for TikTok and for YouTube. Where'd it go? Where's my, I clicked the wrong button. Okay, here we go. Terms. Okay, now everybody can see it. What we're looking at here is the terms that we're going to be discussing. And I want to just make sure everybody's clear, because for some reason people don't know what gross and net means. Okay. Gross revenue. When we talk about gross revenue, we are talking about what is billed to the customer, not after Landstar. Okay. If the customer's writing a check for $2,000 to move a load, we're going to call the revenue for that load $2,000. Net revenue.
A more accurate statement of that, Chris, not just in this situation, but overall, it would be the amount of money received from the customer, not necessarily charged to the customer, but gross
Right.
revenue is what you receive before any expenses.
Right.
Top
And
of line.
and for me, this is where the apples and apples and oranges are. Okay. If you're leased to a carrier, there's an amount of money being received from the customer. If you have your own authority, the customer's writing the same check. Okay. We're not gonna be like, oh, well, I got $3 a mile because I have my own authority, but you're leased to a carrier, so you only got $2.25. Because you're paying for things that we don't have to pay for. So to keep all of the numbers even, when we talk about gross revenue, we're talking about the top number before anybody gets any percentages. On the net revenue, that's where we're going to talk about the money that the truck or the trailer, because at Landstar, trucks and trailers get their own settlements. So the revenue for the trailer is not on the truck settlement and vice versa. So the net revenue is going to be what that vehicle, what that asset earned as a part of that contract, 65%. We'll talk about that in a second. All right. Driver pay on our contract with our drivers is that they earn 25% of what's called line haul and accessorials. The fuel surcharge goes to the truck. They don't get a percentage of the fuel surcharge. You'll see a line that's called payroll costs. Okay. We pay people on a W-2. We do not pay people on 1099s. Okay. We're not going to have that argument today, but that's how we do it. All right. And that's how we believe you should do it. Because if you're going to operate your truck to its maximum potential, then you need to have an S Corp election and an LLC set up so you don't get your head taken off in taxes. And in order to do that, you're going to have to pay yourself what the IRS calls a reasonable salary. And so the way to do that is to pay yourself a salary on a W-2, run it through a little payroll company, but that comes at a cost to the business, and that cost is about 11%. Fixed expenses are things that are charged either weekly or monthly that do not change.
Fixed expenses that occur whether the truck moves or not.
Right. We pay $3.69 a week for the Landstar Contractor Network, and we pay $2.50 a week for Prepass. Okay. We pay physical damage insurance once a month. Those things never change, and they're not based on truck activity. All right. They happen every week. If the truck sets from January 1st to December 31st, all those things are still due. Other expenses here is comm data fees and tolls and TransFlow scanning and scales and oil and additives and things like that happen because we moved freight. And these are all things that would either be deducted from this. Well, in this case, these would be anything that's deducted from the settlement, where we pay a CAT scale with a fuel card, things like that. We also put our monthly tolls in that same category, because we get a toll bill once a month, and some of them are doozies. So gross revenue, net revenue, driver pay, payroll costs, fixed expenses, other expenses. Those are the categories and the lines that we're going to be talking about here as we go through this and start to talk in more concrete terms. Okay, now let's talk about the breakdown of the revenue itself. And I've got to do a lot of things at once here. All right, let me get revenue. Okay, now what you're looking at on the screen now is I just took an example of a load that was posted on the Landstar board. This load, 361 miles. In line haul, it paid $1,190. And accessorials, in this case, was fuel surcharge, was $150.06, giving the total revenue, the total gross revenue, $1,340.06. Okay. So the truck is going to get 65% of that $1,190, and it's going to get 100% of that $150.06. Now let me do some mathemagicals here. 1190 times 0.65 plus 150. That means the truck is going to earn $923.56 for pulling this load. 1340, which comes out to be like 69 or 70% of that gross revenue. So as we go through here, you'll see that we're going to show you for a 3-month period, May, June, and July of this year, how much these trucks earned in gross revenue and then in net revenue and the driver pay, and we're going to go through everything. All right. So let me get that off of the screen, and I'm going to switch over here and take that off the screen. Okay. Next, let's talk about the trucks themselves, because this was also pretty interesting the way this turned out. There were 7 trucks involved in this analysis. I got to hit another button. All right. So now TikTok can see it. So, and these trucks are ordered in the rank of profit. Okay. Truck number 1 is a 2018 Cascadia with a DD15 and a DT12 automatic. Truck number 2 is a 2007 Freightliner 14-liter Detroit 10-speed manual. Truck number 2 is the truck that I did the video about that stirred up so much hate and discontent. This is the truck that was bought in 2021 for $5,500 and was put into our fleet and has been in our fleet ever since. But the contrast between, and you're going to see the numbers here in a minute, these trucks were within hundreds of dollars of each other. These two trucks outperformed every other truck. But here's a 2018 and a 2007 that were basically neck and neck for the lead every week through this period. Truck number 1 was pulling a Conestoga, 48-foot Conestoga. Truck number 2 was pulling a 53-foot flatbed. Truck number 3 was pulling a 48-foot flatbed. Truck number 4 pulling a van. Truck number 5 pulling a van. Truck number 6 pulling a 48-foot flatbed. And truck number 7 was added at the end of June, so its numbers are only for 1 month. But this is the truck that we called Bride of Frankenstein. It's a 12.7 Detroit. It has a 10-speed direct drive and 264 rears. So let's roll over here. Here's what I have about the trailers. And I put some notes in here. Truck number 4 has a new driver. New drivers always make silly mistakes that cost everybody money. So that's why those numbers are down a little bit. There was about 2 weeks that the driver in number 5 had off, which obviously when they're not working, they're not making any money. Truck number 6 was the one that I was about to perform an exorcism on because it was down for 3 weeks. It was actually down 4 weeks, but it was down 3 weeks in this period. Because of an electrical issue that I fixed. Thank you very much. When nobody else could find it, I did. And then here we have the average miles per gallon of these trucks. And again, truck number 1 and truck number 2 were very close. And we're talking about the difference between a 2018 with an automatic and a 2007 that's probably got 1.5 million miles. And every single week in the fuel mileage report, these two trucks were back and forth. One time it was the 07 that was top fuel mileage, and the other time it was the 2018 that was top fuel mileage. So that goes now. Can you bring up the Restream and keep an eye on the YouTube comments? Because I can see TikTok.
I'm looking at them, but I'm looking at them on my iPad, Chris. I'm not on Restream. I can't get Restream to run on my iMac. So
okay. Well, just keep an eye on there in case anything.
Oh, believe me, I am. So believe me.
Okay. Now, before we get into that, let me go over here and
while you're let me just put a general comment out there because I see a lot of comments coming in our comment section. Let me remind you guys a couple of things, okay? We do not work for Landstar. We are not trying to recruit people to come to Landstar. We could care less whether you come to Landstar and what you think of Landstar. We're here only to expose to you what we're doing to show you that the things that you think are true or probably aren't true. That if this load is a, what's the last comment? 371 is about $1 more than what normally hits the board. This came off the board. If we got off the board
right now,
how come other people can't? Chris, what were the loads booked today off the board? That we were just talking about before we went on air.
I don't have that spreadsheet up.
I mean, these general statements that you want to come on here and make, like truck drivers like to do, they are not. They're incorrect. They're not. I mean, we are not magic here. Okay, we work on the same load board. We work in the same parameters as everybody else at Landstar. But yet, if I look on these comments, I see all these things about it being a junk deal. If you own your own truck, you should have a private, whatever the hell that means. I'm assuming that means authority.
Yeah.
But try to use the proper nomenclature when you're talking here, so you understand we understand what you're talking about. A private deal. That sounds like something you do with a lot lizard, but anyway. But understand what we're doing here. We are not trying to recruit you to Landstar. We actually could care less whether you come to Landstar or not. I chose to come to Landstar because that's where I wanted to be, because I knew that I could partner with them and be this successful that we are. Okay. And somebody said there's no money here anymore. Well, unfortunately, I have to prove you wrong. We are right at about 1.2 million right now in gross revenue, with 350,000 plus in net revenue. So I hate to argue with you, but there is money in trucking, but you just have to know how to get the money out of trucking, which is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to show you how we do things so that you might learn from this. Our entire program, when I wrote this entire program and authored it, I called it Reset Your Mindset. That's what we call our live event when we have one each year. We're going to revisit that in our school community coming up here soon. But the whole thing about here is resetting your mindset, because all these little statements that you make, that's just stupid thinking. If you would reset your mindset to open your mind to what can be done, maybe you won't be so frustrated all the time when you go to the Pilot truck stop in Italy, Texas, and they make you pay to park even though you spend money there. I couldn't believe that today. I mean, I guess when you go out and get your CDL, you automatically, your rights automatically take over everybody else. The guy who owns that property no longer has the right to charge you to park on his property because you bought yourself a CDL. So that's the kind of ignorant thinking we're trying to straighten out here, is to get you thinking like a business person, so you could make money in trucking instead of bitching and whining and pissing all the time. There's no money in that, I can tell you that, okay? But if you would open your eyes and your mind and your ears and look and listen and learn, you might find out that you possibly could be wrong. Again, we're showing you everything. We're being very transparent about what we do. If we can do it, you can do it. But you have to want to do it. You have to want to change. If you don't want to change, you're never going to get anything different than what you've got right now. So I just want to make sure you guys understand that. You guys had fly by on these comments and make these stupid general statements that basically are untrue to begin with,
Right?
And indefensible. And I'll be happy to debate any of you about any of these stupid comments you're making. There's no money. There's no Chris. There's no money here.
My buddy Scott said, "I just wish Larry would open up and tell us how he really feels."
Well, you're getting ready to get it, okay? I'm trying to be nice right now, but I'm in a mood, okay?
Oh gosh.
But I can't put up with stupid truck drivers, okay? I hate stupid truck drivers, and this is why I hate stupid truck drivers, because you make stupid comments that make zero sense. Here's another one, just recently. There's no money. I just told you we're making right now. We're at $1.2 million, okay? And of that, we're keeping 350,000 plus of that in our pockets. So maybe that's not any money to you, but to me, it's not bad. Okay. I pay this guy you see right here. I pay him 6 figures to do what he's doing. He stays home every day. He doesn't even get dressed half the time. He's an asshole. He gets paid very, very well to be it. Okay. But he works like a son of a bitch, and he does really good at what he does. Okay. These loads you find off the load board that you say can't be done, he gets them off the load board. And better than that, he gets them from agents who have loads on the load board that we might not take that load, but we call them and get a better load because we have a relationship with them. But you all never get that because you want to just piss on them to the point where they're not going to give you anything.
I got a phone call at 6:40 on Friday evening from an agent. Hey, I've got one of these loads loaded up, ready to go. Do you have anybody close by that needs one? And I said, well, I actually have a guy that needs one on Tuesday, but not today. I said, can you hold it for him till Tuesday? She said, let me call you back. She called me back. She said, yeah, we'll hold it for him until Tuesday. She called me at 6:40 on Friday evening.
There you go. Chris, bring up that compliment we got today that I made a comment about on the fleet message boards. Can you bring it up?
I can't. I don't have. Well, I mean, I could, but I've got a lot of things.
Well, let me just read it to you. Okay, this is a reply we got on an email today. Let me find my fleet message. Hang on a second. I asked Chris to do it because I knew he'd do it quicker than me, but that's okay. I'll get to it. Fleet message. Okay, so we got this message today. First of all, our drivers email every agent every time something happens. Yep. So this was a just typical response after we're done with a load. And it basically just said, hey, we're finished. We're empty. We're leaving the trailer, watch and watch. Here's the response. Awesome. Thanks for the update. P.S. You guys are the true definition of professionalism. I wish everyone I dealt with had at least 20% of your work ethic. So this is how you get the loads that we get. Okay. It's treating people right, putting the customer first. You
And
know,
the best part about this is most Landstar drivers hate this guy because of who he works for.
yeah,
So
he's the most complained about agent in the entire Landstar system.
Yep.
Okay. And I'm just going to say, I mean, he knows it's Austin Taylor. If you talk to Landstar BCOs, when you say Austin Taylor, their eyes are going to turn red. Okay. But yet here it is. We took a load from him. We were successful. Chris, you have any idea what this load paid?
Yeah, I can tell you. Un momento, por favor. $1,600 for 405 miles.
$4 bucks a mile.
$4
okay.
a mile.
So the most hated agent in Landstar. Now, you think he likes us? You think that he's going to give us future loads? I mean, but this is how you win your customers over. You don't win them over. Now Phil gave us another example. Here's Phil. He gave us an example of the other end of the spectrum. He has an agent. Of course, Phil does platform stuff, some heavy haul stuff, big stuff. Okay. But one of his agents, it was just in a bad way this morning because 2 Landstar BCOs were late, and the crane that was hired to be there to unload them had to stay an extra day to the tune of $7,000. And guess who had to pay that? The agent. And the BCOs, I mean, it was 100% opposite of what we did on this other load. You know, they didn't show up, they didn't call, they didn't say anything, they just didn't show up. You know, typical truck driver mentality.
Yep.
So there is money in this, but you have to actually want to be a
Worthy.
decent person and worthy and exactly and work for it. You know, you can't expect people to give you something for doing nothing.
Okay, now let's get the train back on the track because I'm ready to show you all these numbers. So I got to hit. All right. So what you're going to see here on TikTok and on YouTube, I'm gonna put this up on the board here. Okay, so we're going to start here, and these trucks are listed from top to bottom of highest profit to lowest profit. And again, profit is after all expenses are paid. So
it's what you pay tax on.
Right.
It's your taxable income.
So these numbers here are for 3 months, May, June, and July of 2024. And this is every expense. And then you'll see here in a minute that I just did a basic calculation for maintenance because I don't track maintenance that closely. But going back to the beginning of our conversation, we're going to account 25 cents of every mile, all miles, for maintenance. So truck number 1, top dog. This is the 2018 Cascadia pulling a 48-foot Conestoga. In 3 months, she ran 28,147 miles. She had 4,044 miles of deadhead. The gross revenue, again, this is what is being charged to the customer. Gross revenue, $105,757.36. Net revenue, this is what the truck earned. Now, the trailer got its own 8%. That's not included here. This is just the tractor. So the tractor earned $74,963.47. So the 25% that the driver earned was $22,695.24. That payroll cost that we talked about, that's the 11% that paying the appropriate taxes for having a driver, having an employee, and the payroll fees, $2,500. Fixed expenses, so that's your insurance and your different little things that are deducted weekly or monthly from the settlement, $3,253.43. Other expenses, that's going to be tolls, that's going to be mileage taxes, if they're deducting for base plates or escrow or permits or any of that kind of stuff. The fuel cost on that truck for 3 months was $15,931.06. So the profit before maintenance after paying the driver, after paying all the fixed and variable expenses, and after paying for the fuel, was $25,245.88. All right, that's the profit. Now this is where the original profit leaderboard that I published every week stopped. I've since added more columns to it. So this is what we would publish every week, and it would show you, okay, well, you got paid 25%. This is what you would earn, this profit before maintenance. This is what you would earn if you owned the truck. So you would take your driver pay and you would put it with this profit. So we could add the $22,695 driver pay to the $25,245 profit, and the profit before maintenance would be $48,000. Okay. Now, this allowed me to develop what our cost per mile is, CPM. Again, this is before maintenance. This is every expense that the truck incurred, including driver, payroll cost, fuel costs, fixed and variable expenses. That truck's cost per mile was $1.39. You can see there at the bottom that the average of all the trucks right now is $1.33. Okay. So the gross rate per mile, and everybody loves to talk about, is this before or after Landstar? Is this before Landstar takes all your money? Oh my God. Okay. This is all miles. This is not only loaded miles. This calculation on this spreadsheet is all miles, including deadhead. So that truck, the customer paid $3.29 for all miles. It would be a lot higher if I only calculated loaded miles. The net rate per mile after Landstar steals all of our money was $2.33 for all miles, including deadhead. And our deadhead was pretty high. That's just been the nature of this market. You have to deadhead further to get better loads. Okay. Then we're going to go with this net after maintenance. Now, remember, I want to remind everybody, the whole point of providing this information to the people in our program is that they could see what would happen if they own the truck, because we are in the business of creating owner operators here. That's what we want you to do, is leave our program after 18 months and go buy your own truck and do everything in your truck that you did in our truck so that you can have these numbers. So the net profit per mile, all miles, after deducting 25 cents for maintenance on this number one truck would be 69 cents. That's in addition to the driver pay. All right. Then we have our fuel cost. Now you can see truck number 3 here has a 65-cent cost. That truck doesn't get very good fuel mileage, but truck number 1 and truck number 2, a 2018 and a 2007 that was bought for $5,000 were 2 cents apart on fuel mileage. So all of y'all that want to tell me that you have to buy new trucks to get good fuel mileage, well, here's 2 trucks that are 11 years apart in manufacturing, and they're 2 cents, 2 pennies apart in fuel cost per mile. Okay, so here's your profit after maintenance. I multiplied that net by all miles. So that was, in this 3 months, the profit after maintenance was $22,057.05. So if we take the driver pay, what the driver earned at 25%, and we add that to the profit, then that driver, that owner, in 3 months would have made $44,752.29. That was the point. So you can see that the top 2 trucks are, neck and neck. What is that? About $1,400 difference between the 2 trucks. So if we take that 3 months and we annualize it, we multiply it by 4. Those top 2 trucks, which are the best examples because they both had they both had good drivers, and both of the drivers were working full time, and there was no breakdowns, there was no real like vacations or any of that kind of stuff. The trucks were running. Truck number one annualized net profit after all expenses paid would be $179,009.17. Now you can see that all of these trucks annualized are over 100,000. The bottom two, well, the bottom one has only been running for a month, so I can only take the numbers off of 1 month. But that's pulling van freight, right?
Now,
So
let me point out something too. This includes the driver pay.
yes,
You guys that want to jump on TikTok and tell us how proud you are of the fact that your truck only costs $1.16 a mile to run down the road, make sure you've got driver pay included in that, because otherwise we're comparing apples to oranges. Trucks don't drive themselves for free. You have to pay somebody to do it.
yeah, and if you that's the one thing, you know, that we want to remind everybody, and this was something that Larry had to correct me on.
One of the many things, but
Well,
yeah.
yeah,
Go ahead.
but I never accounted paying me as a part of my cost, right? And what really sunk it in for me was Larry telling me the story about when he had the car wreck and he had to pay somebody to drive his truck so that he didn't lose his dedicated freight. So while he's recovering, he gets T-boned at a stoplight. Um, no fault of his own. He's just sitting there minding his own business and gets blasted and breaks your shoulder.
Left shoulder, yeah. Four places. Yeah.
Breaks his shoulder in 4 places. And so he's got to pay somebody now to drive this truck to keep his freight together.
Or lose my customer.
Yeah.
Because they didn't care about my shoulder being broken in 4 places.
Right. But it was no inconvenience to them. Right.
No, I know.
Well, if he had not set his business up to be profitable and know, okay, well, I'm going to have to pay a driver, and truck drivers don't like to drive for free.
Especially the route I did.
Right. They want to be paid. All drivers want to be paid. Well, if you're setting your business up to where, I mean, you think you're making money, but what happens if you step out of your truck at the fuel island and bust your ass and break your ankle? Well, you have a business there that has to keep rolling. It can't just, okay, well, sorry. Especially if you guys are, going over to LOAN Mountain, somebody's got to pay that $1,600, $1,800, $2,000 a month truck payment, right? The truck just can't sit there because you got a broke ankle. Or if you're sick or got COVID or, whatever the problem was. So you have to have a profile in your business to know, can this business survive if I'm not the driver?
Well, and you should be paying yourself anyway.
Right.
What kind of business do you have if you're working for free? That's not a business. That's a charity, a hobby. So if you can't pay yourself, you don't have a business. You're not in business. You're playing. So it's easy, if you're paying yourself a decent salary, it's easy to find somebody else to take your place because you're paying yourself what it's worth.
Right.
If you can't figure out what that reasonable salary is, go try to hire somebody to do what you do, and then whatever you paid them, that's your reasonable salary, by the way.
Right. JJ Roberts on TikTok says, I'm late to your presentation. Is those final numbers before depreciation and interest? Yes. These are what we would call the net profit, that you would, you're going to pay. This is the number that you're going to base your.
First of all, we don't have any interest because we're not in debt.
Right.
These trucks are paid for.
Right.
Depreciation expense has not been, that's a paper expense. You take that on your tax return, and that has not been applied here because these numbers are not on the tax return in this scenario.
Right. So in this case, this would be your taxable income minus your standard deduction, or maybe you paid yourself a per diem, because you can do that as an owner operator, paying yourself on a W-2. You can pay yourself the per diem. So you could deduct the per diem and depreciation and that kind of stuff, any deductible things like that from this number, so that you don't have to pay tax on all of that. But the point that we wanted to make with this is that even in this market where I saw, we can't make it driving for these low rates. We're about to close up shop. $250 a mile won't do it. Okay. Uh,
Well, let me address that, Chris.
mhm.
Um, the 250 a mile part you can't fix, but you can fix. I mean, what, Chris? What is our average cost per mile? What'd you say a while ago?
$1.33.
Okay, so $1.33. So at 250 a mile, we're making $1.27 a mile. Okay, so your problem is not the 250. Your problem is that your cost per mile. Either number one, you don't know it. Number two, you're not working on trying to lower it, because that's the number that you can control. You can't fix the 250. That's the economy. That's the rate. That's what the load. That's what the lane's going to pay. You're trying to fix something you have no control over, and you're ignoring the part that you do have control over, and that is how do you get your cost per mile down to where 250 lets you take that load and make money. You're wrong about that. You can make money on 250 a mile. You can't, but trucking can. We prove it every day.
Right. And um, you cannot, like Larry said, you can't do anything about supply and demand. You can't do anything about the number of trucks available and the volume. You can. There's nothing, absolutely nothing you or anyone else for that matter can do to fix the rates. You can fix your fuel cost. You can not buy too much truck. You can not go deeply in debt. You can get better fuel mileage. You can. We talked to a guy I was at yesterday. He's like, "Man, I buy 50 gallons at a time." I said, "Why?" "Oh, well, I'll calculate and I
Because
think
he thinks he's saving money by only spending a little bit at a time. Again, that's truck driver thinking.
that,
Um,
yeah,
here's
that's
another
like
here's another truck driver right here. And 250 a mile is too cheap. That's what's wrong with trucking.
right, right. There's nothing wrong with trucking. There's literally nothing wrong with trucking. Now, obviously, the economy has got some challenges and has for 4 or 5 or 27 years. The economy's got some challenges, but y'all, the economy and the trucking market, the
That's
trucking economy,
that's an easy way of blaming somebody but yourself for your failure.
right?
Oh, you can't make any money at this rate. No, no, that's not wrong. You can. We're proving it right here. You can make it at this rate. You can make money at this rate. We do. We haul loads at this rate every day.
hmm The the problem with, and unfortunately, it's the American education system doesn't doesn't teach some real basic skills and understanding of economics. Um, Economics is going to do what economics is going to do, but this business, this trucking economy,
No, no, Trump's going to fix that.
oh,
Remember?
please,
Yeah.
God help me. Um, if you'll zoom out and look at the American economy back to about 1913, it goes up and then down and then up and then down and up and down and up and down. The Austrians call it the boom bust cycle. They call it the business cycle because it goes up until it pops and then it crashes, and it goes up until it pops and it crashes, just over and over and over again. And the trucking industry is no different. 2020, 21, and 22 were the highest market rates in trucking history. So what did people do? Did they work more to make hay while the sun shines, as they say? No, they worked less, went out and got deeper in debt, paid $250,000 for trucks that are now barely worth 90. Um, and they're crying out to Washington, uh, "Oh, somebody's got to fix it." No, you made this decision. You made this bed. Now you got to lay in it. And this is why we have paid for trucks. Now, I'm gonna put this out here just so it's real clear. All these numbers are beautiful. Okay, they're awesome. They're indicative of what we're showing can be done. But the way we do it, we have to. Blue Ribbon's got to get paid, and the guy that owns the truck and the trailer's got to get paid. Um, the driver makes more money here than anybody. Okay, because the driver always gets paid. Because, and that again, when you're in business, you're last. You are the last person to get paid. Everybody gets their money before you do. Well, when you have employees, your employees get paid before anybody else. And so if you get to the end of the week or the month or the year and you've paid the employees and you've bought the fuel and you've bought all this stuff and there's no money left, you get zero. You get nothing. We provide this opportunity to people to show them the right way to start and maintain a trucking business so that they don't end up like me, who ended up with a broken truck in 2017 and went out of business. And so they don't end up like all of these other people who've had their lives destroyed by doing business wrong. We take on an absolute truckload of risk to do this, because if a new driver comes in and they don't do what Larry talked about before by communicating well, and they lose a load, nobody gets paid. Nobody makes any money. And so when somebody comes brand new into our program and we look them in the eyes and say, listen, you're going to do a lot of stupid stuff. No, man, no, I'm not. I'm here. I'm committed. No, please understand. You're going to make some really stupid decisions in the first 6 or 8 weeks that you're here. And
we hope that's as long as it lasts, but
right.
sometimes the truck driver in them comes out and they do it 6 months after they've been here.
Right. But the consequences of bad decisions in business is you don't get paid. So we take on a lot of that risk so that you're not making those mistakes with a big truck payment. Because, I mean, we have a guy, and I'm going to try to interview him, that's brand new to Landstar. I mean, we're talking got in orientation 2 weeks ago. He hauls 6 loads and the truck breaks down. $8,500 turbo on a PACCAR. And he told me, he said, man, if I hadn't found y'all, I would be broken out of business right now. And it wasn't even 2 weeks that he had been at Landstar. Now he's back running now. Fortunately, the truck had some factory warranty on it, but $8,500 for a turbo. He don't have that kind of money. He's barely got started. You know, these DT12s, man, in these Freightliners, they're awesome. They're $9,000 if one goes bad. That clutch is going to cost you $6,000, right? There's so much risk, and we absorb that risk so that you don't have to give you the opportunity to see daily us build these habits so that we can provide you with these numbers, because we're getting it every day, little bits at a time. We don't sit, you know, okay, it's Wednesday, now we've got to do all this. No, the information trickles in slowly as we build the week. I've got another spreadsheet where I track all the loads, and I've got another spreadsheet where I track all the maintenance, and I've got another spreadsheet where I track all this data and that data, and I've got all of this information that gets put in little by little, where if you're a one truck operation, I mean, when I sit down here on Wednesday mornings, it takes me about 7 to 8 hours to go through all of this for all of these trucks and to get all of this data done. All right. And I've gotten it down the first couple of weeks. Whew, I was here about 14 hours. Right. But I've got it down kind of to a science now. Well, if you're a single truck owner operator, you can do the same thing. It might take you 30 minutes a week, you know, if you'll spend the 5 minutes a day, you know, and you could sit down and do your bookkeeping. But every time there was one exception, and I can't remember. There was one exception to this, but every interview that we have, I'll say, well, what's your cost per mile? Well, I don't know. What's your rate per mile? Well, I don't know. Well, what's your fuel mileage? Oh, well, the dash says 7. You know, they have no concept or clue. They don't know how much their fuel percentage of revenue is. They have no idea because they don't know their numbers. These guys' numbers are wrong. Big companies hauling cheap freights. What's wrong? My own thoughts. You haven't had an own thought. You haven't had your own thought in probably a decade. Turn off the television. Clutch is 4,000 labor included. Not on a DT12. It's not. I put a reman clutch in a truck. The guy was decent with me on the labor, but clutch, damn actuator's $2,500. It's $1,000 if you can use the aftermarket one. It was $6,500 to put a clutch in, and the guy didn't kill us on labor because we had to change the flywheel too, right? And that's something that I have learned working in a shop. I will not reuse a flywheel. I've seen too many times. There's a whole story where we had one turned, and they turned the thing about 70 thousandths and didn't tell us, raised all kinds of hell. But we won't reuse a flywheel. So if the flywheel shows any signs of wear, it's getting replaced. That's $1,000 on a Series 60. It's $1,800 on a damn DD15. So to do it right and have it to where it's going to last you hundreds of thousands of miles, it's going to be $6,500. But again, the price of everything's going up and the quality's going down. So again, what's your take on becoming an owner operator in the dump truck business? Brother, I run.
No, we're not in the dump truck business. Couldn't tell you.
I mean,
we don't give advice for things that we don't know anything about.
I can tell you that business principles are business principles, and you could go listen to our 200 episodes on YouTube, and you could probably get the information that you would need to run your dump truck business well. But I can't tell you how to do that, because we run over the road trucks and trailers, flatbed and van. Now, it helps that we have platform trucks, because the platform market, especially at Landstar, is so much better than vans. But we do well with vans. I mean, it ain't nothing to write home about, but every one of our van trucks is profitable. We do not own our own van trailers. We use Landstar's trailers because losing access to drop and hook freight is detrimental. The drop and hook freight makes it so much worth it. Now that's a completely different story when you're talking about a Conestoga or a 53-foot flat or 48-foot flat or something like that. But Larry, I did it when I was a BCO. Larry did it when he first came to Landstar. What we did was we just hooked to a trailer and stayed with it for 30 days and compared the numbers to do a drop and hook, and it wasn't even close.
Somebody asked you a question about, is cost per mile on local same as over the road? It doesn't matter. Cost per mile is cost per mile.
Yeah.
It's all of your cost divided by the miles you drive, whether they're local or back and forth to California. That doesn't change anything. It is what it is.
And I'm gonna tell y'all this. I want you to hear me on this, because I've got all these spreadsheets. Yes, I'm a nerd. Okay. I'm self-taught. Okay. I learned how to do spreadsheets by going on Google and typing, how do you make a spreadsheet? And then I watched YouTube videos, and then I experimented, and then I try and all that stuff. So if you want to do this, I've got some spreadsheets. I think if you go to the link in bio on TikTok and you go, I think there's the same one on YouTube. I believe there are some downloadable spreadsheets in our Beacons link from our live event last year.
A couple of questions. Carlitos, cost per mile the formula for that is all of your expenses divided by all of your miles. So first of all, you have to keep your receipts. You have to know what your expenses are. Then you have to also keep what your miles are. And once you have those numbers, it's just a math problem.
On a foundational level, I can tell you how I did this. We use a free website, an app called Fuel Gauges. It's at letstruck.com. If you're on Android, you have to use the browser. If you're on an iPhone, there's an app. But we use this, and we track every tank of fuel. Every time the driver gets fuel, they enter the information. And so we've got, good God, probably 6 million miles of fuel mileage tracked on all these different trucks. And so when I wanted to know how many miles, I just went into Fuel Gauges and put start date and end date, and it popped up with a number.
The DAT load board cannot calculate your cost per mile.
No.
I mean, it could do the formula, but you still have to have the data. and the DAT load board's not going to know your costs,
It has
and
no.
it's not going to know your miles unless you only run stuff off their board. But that's just an untrue statement. That's ignorant as well.
Do you still need 3 years of authority to get on a Landstar? No. You need 1 year of
Of over-the-road
verifiable
experience.
over-the-road experience. It doesn't.
Matter of fact, if you have your own authority, you can't get on Landstar. You can be an outside approved carrier, but you cannot be a Landstar BCO with your own authority.
Yeah, you have to.
But again, understand, we do not work for Landstar. This is just what we know from being around here. But do not take what we say as being the truth. If this is a question for you, call them and ask them. Okay. I do not think you should get information from truck drivers on social media. And so I'm going to practice what I preach here and tell you, if you want to get the answer to this, call Landstar Recruiting, and they'll tell you that.
Is your model applicable for true lease op with a carrier like Swift or Prime? No, because lease op with Swift or Prime is financial suicide looking for a place to happen. We run paid for trucks. We don't lease trucks. We don't go to Lone Mountain. We don't go to the bank. We sure as hell don't lease them from carriers.
It's a horrible way to start business. It's a horrible way. The risk is so high when you do that. And if you don't understand that, go back and we have lots of episodes about lease purchases. We have one dedicated just to lease purchases, but that is the worst way I can think of for you to get in this business is lease purchase.
Yeah.
You could not start out any worse, in my opinion.
Too much risk. And success in business. I mean, everybody, you can look at these numbers. Okay. Let me put them back up here on both screens. You can look at these numbers. Okay. And this is all profit. Okay. But if you're not accounting for risk, none of these numbers matter because this will all go away very quickly. I saw a comment before that said something like, oh, well, with these numbers, you could afford to have a truck payment. No, not until something goes wrong. You can't afford to have a truck payment. A truck payment is
that. Let's just talk about that comment. So if you're making money, you can afford to waste it. Is that what you're trying to say? Let's make money so we can just throw some of it away. You should never have a truck payment. Period. Ever have a truck payment.
Dave Ramsey had a great line in one of his, it's probably still in Financial Peace University. He said, but have y'all ever drove through town and seen the size of the bank building? It's generally the tallest building in town. And there's a reason that the bank building's the tallest one in town because they got all your money.
Because everybody in town gives them all their damn money. That's why.
Yeah. So what does a median truck gross yearly? Okay. Again, gross or net. We are going, let's see, what's probably, if Greg grossed 108,000 in 3 months, times 4, it's probably 400. His truck will probably do 400,000 this year gross, and it'll probably do 70 times 150. It'll probably do 300,000. Now, if he keeps booking $8,000 loads like he did today, he's probably going to be 350.
But understand something. That's what we do with our mindset and our way of doing business. That doesn't mean that you're going to go out here and do that, because if you're one of these guys that won't haul cheap freight and you're going to sit in Florida for 3 weeks waiting on that load to hit, you are not going to do this. Okay. Right. This is not taking into consideration rate per mile or all these stupid things that truck drivers think about. This is thinking like a business person does. But the numbers, the reason that we put the numbers out here is because we don't want to just make these comments and then not have the receipts to back it up. We got the receipts as what's his name? The football coach?
Oh, Saban? No. Coach Prime.
Coach Prime. It's Coach Prime says we got the receipts. Okay.
Right. Okay, here's a good one. Willie Cox, 95 on TikTok says, what's a good company for teams? Well, it depends on what you want to do. All right. And this is a great segue. There are people that hate Landstar. I mean, you say Landstar and their skin starts fluffing off it. They get so hot. Okay. And they've probably had a bad experience with Landstar. Okay. For whatever reason. And whatever hatred Landstar gets, they probably deserve it. Okay. But setting all of that aside, there are opportunities that exist in the Landstar system that a bunch of y'all could never dream of. Okay. Um, in heavy haul, in ammunition and explosives, in government freight. There are teams here that make our numbers look like dog shit. Okay. Um, but what do you mean when you say team? Like, are you just thinking, oh, well, I want to, we want to run 7,000 miles a week
I
and,
can tell you what he wants. He wants to know where he can go and automatically be successful because he's a team. That he
well,
can't
maybe or maybe
fail no
not.
matter what he
May-
does. Okay.
No, but what I'm saying though, but that could be the case. But what I'm saying is, I want you to, if you're a team, especially a husband and wife team, I want you to think about the opportunity that you could have coming to Landstar, help Mercer, don't even have to be Landstar. But if you had a paid for truck and you came to Landstar and you run what we call super solo, because Landstar does not have a lot of team freight in the way you think about team freight. There's FedEx and there's this, that, and the other, but there's a lot of just regular loads that a solo could pick up on Monday and deliver on Wednesday, but a team could pick it up Monday and deliver it Tuesday, and they'll be like, yeah, we'll take it. Right. But beyond that, if you would come and you would learn the communication and learn the relationship building and learn how to, our friends Judy, and gosh, what's her husband's name? Judy Byerly. And anyway, I apologize for forgetting his name, but they have this amazing business card set up. And it's got a picture of them and it's got a picture of their truck and it has all of their qualifications on it. I'm gonna promise you, they make more money in a year than probably 3 of our trucks do. Okay. Now, when they have to run hard, they run really hard, but there's a lot of times they don't have to run hard. So they hang out in that giant house on wheels that they bought. Right. So it's, um,
There's no answer to your question.
correct.
What's a good carrier to go for teams? Every carrier could be good. It depends on you, what you're looking for,
Right.
how you fit in their system, how you understand their system. But I mean that. But I understand the question. The question, like I said before, is where can I go and I can be successful as a carrier regardless of what I do? That's the question. And the answer to that question is you can't. Even if you come to Landstar and do all the things we're talking about, you still have to come here and work the Landstar system. And you can't do that if you're going to come here and act like a truck driver.
Right.
You're
Uh,
not going to like it.
he follows up and says, we're a couple that currently leases at Prime. God help you.
Well, there you go.
It has been very inconsistent. Yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome to
Well,
leasing a truck.
you're not going to move somewhere and fix that. Okay. You need to fix that at Prime. God help you, but that's what you need to do.
Right. I'm going to tell you this, and this is 27 years of trucking talking. Okay. I was at Schneider years 2006. So what, 18 years ago, 2006, 2007. And I had this, they were, where I was one of the operating centers, I think it was Carlisle, and they had a school there. And so they had these fresh off the boat truck driver trainees. Right. And they had this little cafeteria. And this youngin walks up to me and I'm sitting there eating my cheeseburger and he was like, well, you got some advice for me? And I'm like, yeah, stay out of this room. And he kind of looks around. He's like, what are you talking about? I said, but the bullshit is about 3 foot thick in this room because I said, just sit here and listen. You'll listen to all these truck drivers talking about how they're not making any money because Schneider hates them and wants them to quit. I heard the federal government pays Schneider to run you at low miles, so you won't make any money and you'll quit. I mean, this just the absolute nonsense. But I told this kid, I said, listen, if you will, number one, don't run over shit. Okay, don't back into anything. When they say get out and look, get out and look. Okay, because you don't know what you're doing. but at that time, and it's probably still true, at that time, all the loads were run by an algorithm. Okay. And if you give that algorithm good information, like when you're going to arrive and how many hours you'll have available when you get there, because this was before ELDs and you had to actually calculate stuff, it'll keep you moving. I made great money in 2006 and 2007 at Schneider as a company driver. I mean, hell, I probably made 60 grand, which in 06 was a pretty good deal for somebody that was home every weekend. So Prime has a system. And I promise you, if you will go into that big Taj Mahal there in Springfield, and stay out of the basketball court and stay out of the driver's lounge and go upstairs or downstairs or wherever the people are and say, listen, we want to make money. What can we do different? How do we change us? Because you're not going to change Prime. You're not going to change US Express. You're not going to change Landstar. You're not going to change Schneider, but you can change you. So first thing I think y'all need to do is go up to the big house and say, listen, what do we need to do different? We want to make more money. And that's where it starts. And they'll probably give you a list. Oh, well, you should do this and you should do that and try this and try that. And then you build yourself up, because I know people that have been at Prime and have made a lot of money. Now, they worked like absolute animals, but they made money. So that's where you got to start, because if you can't do that at Prime, you're not going to be able to do the thing at Landstar, right? And we have a different relationship where we're dealing straight with agents and customers, and we build relationships that are pretty deep beyond just some dude in a cubicle that's a load planner. But you can still build relationships at Prime, right?
You can be as successful at Prime as you'll be anywhere else, but it's going to have to be you that makes the changes. You're not going to find a carrier that's going to change for you.
Exactly. So now,
not to mention the cost it's going to take for you to change carriers, which is unnecessary because you won't have that cost if you just stay there and make that work. Somebody asked a question, what's wrong with truck drivers? This is what's wrong with truck drivers right here, okay? Truck driver, and it has nothing to do with holding the steering wheel. It's about what's between your two ears.
Yeah.
You guys want somebody else to fix everything for you and give you consistent pay and do everything for you, okay? That's not going to happen. Run your own business. If you want that, go work for somebody.
Yeah. Now, if we've had, did we have two teams or just one?
We had a husband and wife team.
We had a husband and wife team. I thought we had another one. Teams are, it's not that they're difficult. It's just a different deal here, right? I mean, back then in the height of the market, they were doing 20 grand a week. I mean, it was insane what they could do. And that was running general freight. Like, there wasn't really anything special. But they were doing 20 grand a week. I don't know that I could do 20 grand a week now with a team. I could probably pretty consistently do 12 to 15, that you could kind of count on. But you just have to look in the mirror. We keep talking about buying a prop, just buying some blue mirrors and put like the Blue Ribbon Logistics accountability checker or something on it. And if you want to know what the problem is, just hold it up. Oh, there you are. I found the problem. Nobody can fix your problems but you. Okay. Bottom line. And nobody is responsible for your problems but you. And that's what we mean when we talk about the truck driver attitude. It's always, they're blaming the brokers, or they're blaming Congress or Biden or Trump, or
they're entitled to this because they bought a CDL. I own a truck. I demand to get $5 a mile because I deserve that. No, you don't deserve it. You don't deserve anything. Why? Why should somebody else owe you something because you bought a CDL?
We had a young man come in the shop today, and the shop owner is on vacation. So I'm kind of standing there, and there's a young man standing there, and the shop foreman, Z, he goes, "Hey man, will you go interview that kid?" I said, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, he's here for a job. Will you go talk to him?" I thought, "Sure." So I sat down and I asked him about his experience and what he'd done, and I said, "Well, what are you worth?" Because he started out saying, "Well, where I'm at, I'm not making any money." I said, "They're paying you no, they don't pay you?" "Well, I mean, I'm making some money." I said, "Okay, well, what are they paying you?" Well, it came up to he's getting paid by the job, and it's kind of a shitty deal. And he's like, "Well, I made $200 this week." And I said, "Well, yeah, that sucks." I said, "So based on your experience and what you can do, what do you think you're worth?" And I mean, just the strangest look on his face when I asked him what he thought he was worth. And he was like, "Well, I don't," he's 20 something, 21. And he's like, "Well, I mean, about $17 an hour." I said, "Okay." So we had a conversation. They end up hiring him. So we'll see. We're about to find out Monday if he's worth $17 an hour or not. Right. Um, but your value in the marketplace is solely dependent on what you can do for somebody else. Period. That's it. You're not born valuable. I mean, you have a basic human dignity, right? But I've got an 18-year-old that's beginning to tiptoe out into life, and she's got to look at what she's able to provide for someone, and what value that she can provide them, and what value they'll provide in turn. $17 an hour for a basically mechanic with no experience. That's basically what it is. I mean, he's worked on like pickup trucks and stuff, and says he can weld. We're about to find out. um, but work ethic. Um, Work ethic is something that's kind of died in this society, which is unfortunate. And that's the thing that, as a customer, I've always really appreciated about Cam Service Center in Charleston is that they don't roll the doors down at 5 o'clock and wish you the best of luck. We're going to keep working. It's a 24-hour shop, but we're going to keep working until we run out of parts or, run out of stuff to do. So anyway,
You got a guy named Thanks Dumbass's attention. $17 an hour doing what? So all of a sudden now you've piqued his interest because he thinks you're offering him a job. You wouldn't like working here, okay? Because last time somebody asked me what we offered, I turned around and said, "Well, what do you offer?" Because we don't offer anything. We offer you the opportunity to come here and learn from us. That's all we offer.
Yeah, I've seen a lot. Of course, a lot of the TikTok comments are drive-bys.
Yeah.
They come in and watch for 3 minutes and throw up a stupid comment and then run like hell. But listen, we pay our drivers a percentage because they get a piece of the action. And so if
We pay our drivers a percentage because that's what you get when you're an owner operator, is a percentage. So we
Right.
treat them here like they're going to get treated when they're on their own, because that's what they're here to learn, is how to be on their own.
Right. We're not, and let's be very, very, very clear. We only do this. We only have trucks because of the training program. Neither one of us would operate a trucking company to just hire drivers off the street and haul freight. There is no way. I'd go turn wrenches.
I would quit right now if you told me that's what we're going to do. I'd leave right now.
Yeah.
You're on your own. See you. Good
The
night.
only reason that we do this is because I want to see you come into the program, learn what you need to learn. I want to see you leave. I want to see you.
We want to fix your mindset. We want to fix it so you understand what it takes to survive and thrive in business. It's got nothing to do with driving a truck. It's got nothing to do with anything else about trucking. It has to understand what business is about.
Right.
And most truck drivers have no clue what business is about. They have no clue what they're in a business to do.
No.
And so we have a hard time, not a hard time, but it takes a long time to get them to understand what business is about, and make them understand that they have to provide value. They get paid based on what they're worth, and that scares the hell out of a lot of people
Because if you're worthless, you'll
because
find
they're
out real
worthless,
quick.
you know.
If you have no value, go into business. You'll find out real quick.
Yeah.
Um, someone asked why van over refrigerated. Well, number one, Landstar don't have it refrigerated.
Because that's what the freight is that we have. We
and
could pull a reefer, but then we'd have to be looking for loads all the time. Again, it's kind of like go hunting for deer and take a 22. I mean, if you got to have the equipment based on what you're looking to do. We know that the freight here at Landstar is basically going to be general dry van freight. That's why we do dry vans, because that's what makes sense. It would be stupid for us to go get a reefer or a bull trailer. There's no loads here for that.
And I feel the same way about grocery warehouses that I do about root canals.
Yeah.
Now I'll say this, and I can use this to segue. Truck drivers, driving a truck is not a stress-free existence, right? Because you have to deal with the public and you have to deal with the traffic. You have to deal with stressful situations, and you're out there by yourself, and it's very easy to feel alone. And I got a taste today. I took a customer's truck for a test drive. We did an alignment on it, and the shop had done some repairs on it. So I was taking it out down the road to shake it down. And I committed a horrible, horrible sin. I committed a terrible, terrible infraction. And I made a guy in a pickup truck very, very angry. And the unforgivable sin that I committed was I drove 35 miles an hour in a 35 mile an hour zone. And I may have dropped under 35 miles an hour when I passed a Dunbar cop. So when we got to the end of the 35 miles an hour zone, the little man in the pickup truck decided to pull over in front of me and brake check me. And I damn near ran over him. And he's waving his arms and, flailing his middle finger in the air. And it just amazes me how, people will, put themselves in literal suicidal positions, of trying to, in my case, I was driving an empty straight truck. So I was probably 20,000 pounds. But I get how bad it sucks. And I still get a little taste every once in a while when I take a truck on a drive, but this guy, he's got some anger issues. He probably spends the weekend tied up with a ball gag watching his wife get plowed by a big bacon classic, so he probably needs some therapy and some counseling, to get him through so that he's not going to,
Why don't you give me that picture? Carlitos, that's not an ignorant question. It's a great question, but the answer to it is something you just have to do this for. The question was, sorry for the ignorance, but what is the value that a truck driver provides to his customer? Well, the best way I can describe that is you be the customer and think to yourself, what is it that you would prefer the truck driver do for you? It's not going to be anything earth shattering. It's just going to be common courtesies. But you have to understand that the more value you provide to him, the more willing he's going to be to pay you, and the more often he's going to use you. If that value is just showing up on time, that might be all it takes. It might be showing up on time, but not mistreating the dock folks in his place. I don't know there's lots of things there, but just being better than everybody else that comes there so that you're more valuable than your competition, which, by the way, is very easy to do in this industry because your competition, for the most part, suck out loud and don't give a rat's ass. So it doesn't take very much to put yourself in a much better position value-wise than your customers are. Because most truck drivers don't even care whether the customer knows what time they're coming out, because I've heard truck drivers say it's none of their business what time I get there.
Jeffrey Coon on YouTube asked, "What criteria do I need to meet in order to drive for Blue Ribbon?" 1 year verifiable over the road experience, hazmat tanker. Um,
And above all of that, coachable, good attitude, open mind, and understand that you have to have value. You have to provide value.
um, Landstar requires hazmat. If you don't have hazmat, what would be your second choice carrier to go to? I would just get hazmat.
Just get hazmat.
That's
Yeah.
that's super.
We're at Landstar because we want to be here. We will not have this program anywhere else except Landstar.
Right.
So if Landstar requires hazmat, what if they require twig? Whatever they require, we're going to get it because we're going to be here. If that's a problem for you, then go somewhere where it's not. But I mean, if you're going to be here, that's what you're going to have.
So here's one of the single-celled organisms that drops by and doesn't know what the hell he's talking about. 150 to 200,000 as an owner operator. You're joking, right? That won't even pay the truck bills. Hey, fuck nut. That's net profit after all expenses.
That's after the truck bills have been paid.
Yeah.
But you got your head so far up your ass you can't read. You can't read the chart.
Do you think someone is able to be an owner op with 6 months experience? Oh, no. You need at least a year. You don't even know. It's 6 months, but you can be a trainer. God help us.
Yeah, you can go to Big Fleet and be a senior trainer, but no, we would not recommend. It's not about being here. We would not recommend it for you to start your own business with only 6 months experience. That's not enough.
Yeah, you need a year of experience, period. And if you hear my voice right now and you're thinking about getting into trucking, I don't care where you go. I want you to go find a carrier. I don't care who it is, doesn't matter. Work for 1 year. Don't quit. Don't job hop. Just suck it up. Finish that year, and then you can write your own ticket. But please, get used to the industry. Get to know the industry that you're in before you start doing that.
What's a good point? Don't just work there a year. Work there a year and be curious and learn the industry that you've chosen to be in. Because there's people in this industry been here for years. They have no idea how this industry works. Just look around. Look at the comments, and you'll be able to tell.
Right. And listen, and we have found this out because there have been some very passionate people that wanted to come and do the program and be an owner operator, and we found out that it's not the best thing for them to do. Okay, not everybody is going to make it as an owner operator. Okay?
I'm going to go worse and better than that. Most truck drivers are not going to make good owner operators because they don't understand how business works. And they are from a welfare environment, and they need that welfare. And being in business is not a welfare recipient environment; it's a welfare provider environment.
Right. And if you've never had any business experience, listen, I need y'all to think about the I'm gonna just call it propaganda that has been showered upon humanity over the last 25, 30, 35 years. That somehow being in business is just easy, and so they'll look at some successful person in business and they'll think, "Oh, hell, I can do that," And if that person has a nice house or a nice car or boat or has some money in the bank, that they must have done something wrong. No, they worked really, really, really hard, and they probably worked 100 times harder than you've ever worked in your miserable life. Don't look at someone who's successful in business and think, number one, that they were greedy. Okay, because the greedy people are the ones that think they can get something for nothing. That's where
they got lucky.
Yeah, the greed is at the bottom. The greed's not at the top. Okay, the greed is all the people that thinks that someone should have their wealth confiscated by the state and given to someone else. That's greed. Thinking that I work at Starbucks and I deserve $72 an hour. No, you make coffee. Okay, you're worth $7 an hour at best. And you can throw hissy fits and start unions all you want to, but you still remain pretty much worthless. But being in business is the most rewarding thing that you can do, but God, it's hard. It's so hard. And please don't get into business thinking it's some cakewalk that, well, I'm just going to do what I want to do. What? No, you're not. You're going to
And
do what the damn customer tells you to do.
and
Exactly when they
and
tell you to do it. Or
listen
you
to
know
me
what I mean?
very clearly. Nobody owes you anything. If you decide to get into business, no one owes you anything.
Nope.
You have got nothing coming except a lot of work, and that's it. And regardless of how much you go pay for a truck, regardless of how pretty your logo is, it doesn't matter. No one owes you anything. You have the opportunity to go out and prove your wealth or your worth, to someone, and then they will in turn reward that worth to you in wealth. But that's what you're going to get to do. That's it. And that's the problem. That's when I say truck drivers. That's the problem I have with truck drivers is they think that because they buy a truck that now they should be able to park anywhere in the country for free because truck drivers have it so fucking bad that we can't mistreat them and make them pay to park. They think that they should get paid a minimum rate per mile because they deserve that. They don't deserve anything. They deserve to get paid what they're worth or what the market will bear. That's it. And if that's a problem for you, you listen. Most people have no business doing this. This industry makes everybody think that the grade 13 is moving from being a company driver to being an owner operator. That's not true. That's not true. Most people should not be owner operators. Most people should be company drivers because they need the welfare. They need the entitlement. They need somebody else to tell them what to do because they don't know how to think for themselves. Just look at the questions right here. Okay. Where can I go buy a truck without getting ripped off? A church? I don't know. I mean,
no.
I don't know. I mean, don't get ripped off. I mean, if you realize you're getting ripped off, just say no. Okay.
Well,
I mean, again, take some accountability for yourself. Grow a pair.
It's not where you go to buy a truck without getting ripped off. It's how you go to buy a truck without getting ripped off. You study the market. You know what a truck's value is. Right now, a 2018 Freightliner is probably worth 25 grand. Okay. We talked to a guy one time that was about to buy one for $70,000. I'm like, dude, why would you pay $70,000 for a truck that's worth 25? So you study the market. You know what you need to get. Do you need an automatic? Do you need a manual? Do you want to get a Detroit? Do you want to get a Cummins? Do you want to get a PACCAR? You study the market and then you decide what kind of truck it is you want and you start looking for that truck. And when you find it, you buy it, right? There's one here from Purdy Birdie, and I hope how you stay on here because I can't wait to do this. Oh, I'm hitting the wrong button. Purdy Birdie says, does being at Landstar hurt you because does being at Landstar hurt you? Many won't work with them, my brokerage included. Okay. Well, let's see. Did being at Landstar hurt us? Let
me start with this. Okay. Let me just start with this before we get into numbers. Here's just let me just put this out there. Okay. I've been in business since 1977. Okay. I've done a lot of things in those 50 years. If I thought that Landstar was going to hurt me, do you think I would choose to do business at Landstar? Do you think I would even be here? So ask yourself that question first. I mean, would a reasonable person, somebody with above average intelligence, above average experience, above average success, choose to do something where I'm going to get hurt? That's the only answer I can give you for that. And then Crystal's going to show you the numbers how we're not getting hurt here. We like it here because we make money here. We make lots of money here.
So does it look like we're hurt from Landstar? Our top two trucks are over $3 a mile. Our top three trucks are over $3 a mile, all miles. With a potential annualized profit after all expenses are paid of $170,000 a year, including the driver getting paid. Are we hurt by being at Landstar? No. Now listen, does Landstar create some problems for themselves in the general market? Yes. Is there a way to fix it? No. Do I wish we could fix it? Yes. Do I give a shit? Not at all. I know that I can.
For every problem that Landstar presents, they have another feature that makes up for it. Give you an example, okay? This broker thing you're talking about is because Landstar has a reputation for quote double brokering, because most people don't understand what co-brokering is, but that's a different argument. But even though they have that reputation, we have never ever not got paid on a load that we pulled.
Not one.
Ever. We don't. I could give a fuck less about double brokering. It doesn't matter because I'm going to get paid regardless, whether it's double broker, triple broker, whatever it is. I don't even know. So it doesn't matter. So that negative is not a problem for me because the positive that goes along with it outweighs it. Everybody talks about 35%. Well, the 35% doesn't bother me because the 65 that we get far outweighs the 35, and the 35 that they quote take, I have to pay more than 35 if I had my own authority for those same expenses. So again, you can't dwell on the negatives. You have to turn around and look at what are the positives. Somebody asked a question: what's the best place to go get 12 months of experience? There's no answer to that. All trucking companies have their ups and downs. They're good things and bad things. You just got to find one that your taste buds will allow you to stay there at. They're all going to have something you don't like. They're all going to have something you do like. You're not going to find utopia out there where you're going to go in there and everything's going to be just perfect for you. That's probably not going to happen. But you just have to find something you can live with. And when you find that thing you think you can't live with, understand grass is not growing on the other side of the fence. Okay. Trucking companies are trucking companies. They're all basically the same.
Wade asked on YouTube, what about a 2014 International for 6,500? No. 2007 or 2008 to 2015 is a no-go. Do not buy a truck.
Regardless of brand. That time period is a no-go based on the emissions and the technology that existed when they did the emissions in that time period.
And about 2016 and up, they're manageable. They're still ridiculously expensive. Now, one thing I didn't touch on, I'm going to go back to, in this analysis that I did on maintenance, and I came up with an across the board 25 cents. We have a 2018 Cascadia that so far, since it's been in our fleet, has a 10-cent maintenance cost. It's been pretty much trouble-free. Okay. We have a 2017 Cascadia that's not been here as long, and it's going to get better the more miles that it drives, but it has a 40-cent maintenance cost right now because we had to put a transmission and a clutch in it. And then, it's had some, we had to put a radiator, and we've had to do some other stuff to it. It's this 2017 would have put an owner operator out of business, even if it was paid for. I mean, it's been a troublesome truck. Now we've put a shitload of money into it and we pretty much got it straightened out. But it's been really expensive to operate. Now the great thing about our 99 to 07 trucks is they're just very even. They're just, we know what to deal with them. Somebody was asking about a 12.7 or 14 liter. I prefer the 14 liter just because I like the low end torque and they have a better Jake brake because of variable geometry turbo. But the 12.7 is great. Hell, the cats are great. The N14 is great. The ISX Cummins is not bad. I mean, the only motors that I really avoid are PACCAR and Max Force International. I know nothing about the new International motor in something 15. I don't even know what it's called. I know nothing about that one. I don't know much about Mac engines. Um, would you buy a truck without an APU system? I am personally prejudiced against um, APUs because our experiences with them have been horrific. They are prohibitively expensive to maintain. So I will not put an APU on a 99 to '07. It's just not worth it. Fuel, if fuel was $5 or $6 a gallon, you could start making the calculation that you could maybe save enough money and not idling. But now, the thing that you have to do with the newer trucks or have to consider is that idling is very, very hard on these newer trucks with emissions. So it's still a decision to be made with a calculator. And I'm sure as hell not going to spend $20,000 on a damn APU. If I gotta have one and the truck didn't come with one, I'm gonna go, what's that? Who's that guy out in Missouri?
Yeah, it's what's that town? There's right behind the TA.
Stafford,
Strafford, Missouri. Yeah,
Stafford, Missouri.
APU something. Let me look at my phone. I've got
APU
it.
Center.
APU something.
They sell used APUs.
They have remanufactured ones too.
Yeah, you can get one for like $5,000 or something. I would do that on a truck that has emissions just because idling is so hard on that emission system.
But again, it's a calculator. It's not a decision based on how you feel. It's a calculator. It's a calculator decision. That's what it is.
Right. Yeah. We all decisions are made with our friend, the bullshit eliminator 9000.
It's it's Strafford, Missouri, right behind the TA.
Yeah.
The guy's name is Bob. Oh, it's called. I've got used APUs. I don't have the APU Central. APU Central is what it's called. The guy's name is Bob.
Yeah.
417-736-3000.
So that's that's about it's just a decision to make, modifying the 14 liter to a 12.7 turbo, not a good thing. No, it's not, because you're deleting emissions. I know people that do it. It's just again, risk. It's not about what I think about emissions or the government or the EPA. It's measuring risk. Listen, a 14 liter with a variable geometry turbo set up right without the EGR and stuff will absolutely run like a scalded dog. Okay. But also pass everything but a fuel stop. Okay. And there were some non-EGR 14 liters made in like 2002 and 2003. What's that guy's name? Gale Banks Turbo. They built, I'm trying to think of this number. They built a hill climb truck for Pikes Peak with a 14 liter Detroit, and it was 2,600 horsepower with a 14 liter Detroit. It was a turbo and a blower put together. A 14 liter Detroit is a badass sumbitch, right? But we're not trying to do that. We're trying to haul freight and
that doesn't make you any money. You do not need that to be successful in business.
You can make a lot of noise. If you were just starting,
you're thinking about the wrong shit. Think about getting your cost per mile down so you can take more loads, and it doesn't matter what the engine is, and it doesn't have to be 700 horsepower. And it doesn't have to be. I mean, that's all just wind and noise.
So, Purdy Birdie, what is the standard dollar amount per mile that the average trucking company factors in for overhead? Well, I can tell you that our average is $1.33. That includes paying the driver, paying the payroll cost, paying all of the fixed and variable expenses, paying the fuel, and
but that's gonna vary greatly with companies, and the bigger the company, the more that's going to vary.
Well, and if you'll remember, and I just thought of this just now, if you'll remember, I did some analysis like 18 months ago, and I came up with $1.58. somehow. I don't remember how I did that. Well, I'm looking at the screen right now, and it says that our average cost per mile before maintenance is $1.33. And if you add 25 cents to that, you know what you get?
$1.58.
$1.58.
Yeah.
And somebody said, where'd it go? If you were just starting, what truck would be your pick? Well, based on my 27 years of business, my pick would be a 1999 to 2007 Freightliner, Century, or Columbia. I like Columbia's better because the headlights are better. Century headlights are garbage. But I would find a solid a 1999 to 2007 Freightliner. I want to pay $10,000 or less to purchase it. I want to spend about 20 grand getting it legal and roadworthy and efficient. And I'm going to put that sucker on the road and go make $150,000 to $200,000 a year net profit with it.
We have an episode about that very thing.
Don't ask us what number it is, but we got one. There's 215.
It should be searchable, isn't it, Chris?
Well, it is. I'm wanting to say 79, I think, but I don't know. That might not be true.
Well, there's one about. It's not the one about truck specs. It's the one about lunatic truck. We introduced the lunatic truck.
It's probably
that's what we call the lunatic truck.
It's probably lower than 100.
Yeah.
Then you won't be going to California. Nope.
Didn't leave anything out there.
I didn't leave nothing out there.
There's 49 other states with freight in California.
And listen, if you live in California,
move. Yeah.
Move
it to Nevada. Or
can you talk about insurance issues and owner operation? Well, fortunately, we don't have a lot of insurance issues because we pay $0 for cargo liability insurance. You have 3 basic insurances when you're operating a truck. You have, 4: workers' comp, bobtail, unladen liability, physical damage, and cargo liability. Liability while you're under a load and the cargo. We have a 0 cost for cargo liability. That's part of the contract with Landstar and part of the 35%. So we pay nothing for cargo liability. We pay, remind me, $31.
$33. There's 2 different numbers now, but they average about $33.
We pay $33 a week for the bobtail
unladen liability.
Mm-hmm. And we pay on average with the cost the
$150 to $200 for physical damage based on the value of the truck.
Ours probably averages $150 a month.
And the good thing about being at Landstar is that any driver that qualifies for Landstar can get in our truck and drive it in. The insurance rate is not adjusted; it stays the same. It's not based on the loss experience of the driver that you're going to get when you have your own authority.
And another big advantage also to being associated with a big carrier, not necessarily just Landstar, but when Flip Flop, the Schneider driver, tore the hood off of one of our trucks in a parking lot, Schneider tried to lowball us for about half of what it was going to cost. And I went back and forth with this woman, and the stuff that she put in this email for people to read was just hilarious. So I got tired of screwing with her. And so we called Landstar's insurance, and they just cut us a check. We said, here's the estimate. And they said, well, here's the check. And now they'll go after that. They'll go after Schneider. What's that word for that? Isn't there a word for that?
Subrogation. Subrogation. Yeah.
Listen, y'all get to learn big words here on the Blue Ribbon Podcast. Subrogation.
Subrogation.
Yeah. Well, I told her to stick it up her subrogation. Because they did wasn't it like 10 grand?
Something like that.
It was like, oh no.
But the thing about insurance is that when you get your own authority, it's the insurance cost is very, very high because you have no experience. You have no loss experience. Insurance is all based on risk.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're new, they assume you're going to do stupid shit.
Mm-hmm.
And then in our situation where we're one of 10,000 other people, we are spreading that risk around a lot, so it's not going to cost you near as much. I mean, it's not even close what it costs you to get insurance as a new authority versus lease to a carrier, which is why we say if you're new, you should always start out lease to a carrier, not with your own authority. Number one, you're probably not compliant enough to stay compliant with the authority. Number two, it's going to cost you a lot more. And number three, why do you want to go through that when you've got an entire department that handles that stuff for you if you lease to a carrier?
Yeah. It's a lot more than just the cost. I mean, you can certainly do the cost of this versus that. And I saw the story today where JB Hunt and a driver are being sued because a woman, I believe it was in Texas on I-35, was sitting in the hammer lane with no lights on. I don't know if the car was disabled or whatever. No four-way flashers where the headlights weren't on. This JB Hunt driver comes through there and blasts that car, and the lady didn't make it. And of course, the the lawyers. Oh well, this driver was distracted. How the hell are you supposed to see a car in the middle of the night with no lights on, sitting in the middle of the damn road? Um, if you were a single truck owner operator with your own insurance, you're done. That dude's, I mean, JB Hunt and Landstar and Schneider, they got fire breathing lawyers to go after these ambulance chasing pieces of shit, you know. But you're screwed if that happens to you with your own authority. So again, it's all about managing risk. It's not always just about the dollars and cents, because risk has there's a value, that you can assign to risk. Robert Solano had to leave Landstar after 6 years, loved it. Unfortunately, had to leave because I live in California. Robert, move. There's 47 other states for you to live in, Robert. Someday it's going to fall in the ocean. We'll fix the problem.
Or we're going to build a wall between us and it. 365 Pilot 6. If I have 1 year experience in my own truck, can I get on with you guys? Possibly, but I have to tell you, we are very, 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 very particular about who we work with, because we won't work with dumbass truck drivers. So if that offends you, probably not. But if you understand what we're saying there, and you're coachable, and you want to learn how to do things, how to stay in business, and not how to worry about where your next meal is coming from, maybe. But understand something: wear your steel-toed boots and bring a football helmet to the interview.
Right. So you can, if there's two kind of programs. There's the 18-month program where you drive our truck. That's called the master class. If you go to Blue Ribbon Logistics,
or in his case, he could put the truck on with us and be in the master class. I mean, that's possible.
And then, so you got the master class, and then you have the mentoring, BCO mentoring. Go to the website, fill out the form. We'll send you an invite. We'll have a Zoom meeting. We'll interview you. We will absolutely terrify and scare the shit out of you. But we can find out, where you're at, and
we'll know whether or not you'll be invited to be here or not after the interview.
Oh, I was going through, I don't keep up on YouTube comments very well. And I saw one where this idiot commented and said, these guys have terrible reviews on Indeed, which we're not on Indeed.
What the hell is Indeed? That's some kind of a hiring website. Yeah.
There's a Blue Ribbon Logistics in California, apparently, that has terrible reviews. And this guy said, I wanted to talk to these guys about putting a truck on, and they were going to charge me for the interview. And I said, well, sounds like us charging for our valuable time worked, because it kept us away from you.
And number one, we don't want your shitty ass truck, okay? So we're even harder on truck owners than we are on drivers.
I love KG on the YouTube says, I've had a few people tell me they've had fuel pump failures on DD15. Should I replace mine as a preventative item One guy paid $13,000 in damage. Now, I personally haven't heard of that
We
problem
haven't run into that problem.
on a DD15. I have heard about that on a Cummins,
Yeah.
that a Cummins fuel pump can come apart and wreak havoc. The Cummins has a lift pump, and then it has a high pressure fuel pump, and one or the other of those can go bad. But
I'd give Pittsburgh Power a call and see if they've run across that.
yeah, I mean,
By the way, Pittsburgh Power is our primary sponsor, even though we fail to mention them quite often. But they do pay us to do this so that we're here for you guys. So give them a call, number one, and thank them for doing that. And number two, use them for a resource. They would probably have that answer that question better than anybody I know.
Yeah. I mean, as far as preventatively changing a component that you know could cause problems, the perfect example of that on the DD15 is the oil pump pickup tubes. Those can get brittle and break and leak and cause loss of oil pressure and can junk the motor. So that's one example of something that that we do preventatively with a DD15, just because it's probably, I don't know, $5,000 to drop the oil pan and replace that stuff and roll bearings in it versus the $30,000 engine. So Eddie Anella on TikTok says DD15s are notorious for tearing up fuel pumps, metal flakes in the filter housing, and that's a wrap. Okay, well, Shannon Stewart says I had one fail on me, sounded like a rod knocking. Oh, okay. We had a truck in the shop, DD15, fired that thing up, and I thought for sure, like, horrible rod knock. I bet it was the damn fuel pump, because it just didn't make any sense. Like, well, now I know. So it's going to be something I'm going to be on the lookout for.
I got one for you, Chris. Ember, why is felony in one's background a disqualification?
Brother, I wish I knew. I don't know.
Well, number one, it might not be, because those are looked at on an individual basis. My guess would be the determination would be is it something that would cause not us, but Landstar or whoever the carrier, to question your character, or something that you might be likely to repeat or do that would cause them a problem, with you, as because you're representing them. I mean, again, it's all based on the fact that that's what's happened in your past. I mean, everybody does background checks for whatever reason, and they have their own criteria for what they're looking for.
I mean, we've had at least 3, maybe 4 people that we were really excited about getting into the program because we could tell they had the right attitude, and they were rejected, and they would never tell us why. And they wouldn't tell the guy. Like, they wouldn't tell the applicant why. They just said, well, sorry, you're not qualified. And we knew it had something to do with some sort of criminal conviction. Maybe that will be the benefit of if we get a convicted felon of president. Maybe we'll be like, well, hey, wait a minute, that guy's a felon. Y'all can't leave me out, right?
I will say this: the very first driver I ever hired, and he did eventually come to Landstar, but that was before I was at Landstar, was a convicted felon. But it was 20 years ago. And I talked to the guy. I mean, I could tell that, first of all, he was a pretty stand-up guy. He went to prison because he wouldn't rat out some of his friends, inner city, urban, African-American. And, but I mean, it didn't stop me. I mean, he's still one of my most, how would you describe him, Chris? Dearest, I think a lot of him to this very day. I use him as an example a lot, but it didn't keep me from giving him a chance to do it. And he was a great employee. He now is a BCO at Landstar, so obviously it didn't disqualify him, but it just depends on the situation. You just have to talk about it and be upfront about it. And and deal with it. So,
Hog Wild says, I'm a felon from 94, was honest with Landstar, and I've been leased on for 6 years now. So, yeah, I mean,
there you
it's
go.
got to be a case by case basis. I mean, you don't know uh, uh, what people are dealing with, you know. It sucks, but hell, I'm not who I was 20 years ago. You know what I mean? So what if I had a felony conviction or something stupid?
Listen, if there had been iPhones and social media 20 years ago, I would be a
Oh yeah,
convicted
I would
felon.
be 100%. If the iPhone existed in 1995, I'd be
Yeah.
in jail right now.
I'd be under the jail.
Yeah. Let's see. Bo Toller says, "Oh my God, I found my people." Well, welcome, Bo. Welcome to the loony bin.
Well, let me reiterate something here, okay? What we do here is we teach people how to survive in business, in the trucking industry specifically. We are somewhat controversial because we are outspoken, but we're outspoken because we have proven the things that we talk about. We have the receipts, and we it's all data backed, and not only data, but millions of miles of experience that support the things that we do. And we've had different experiences, Chris and I, but we have the same passion, and that is to help people survive and succeed in this business where there's a very, very, very high failure rate. And to me, as an outsider looking in, the failure rate is obvious to me why. But in this industry, for whatever reason, everybody goes about doing this thing the wrong way, and they wonder why they fail. Well, to me, it's like I can see it before they even start why they failed. But if you get hung up on the trucking stuff, you miss the point of why you're probably not going to succeed. It's not because of the trucking stuff; it's because of the business stuff. Things that you don't think are important are what's important. The things you think are important are not important in general.
Right.
And so we teach this in different ways. We have different ways of doing it. One's we have this live that we do every Friday night. That's free and will always be free. We have some paid subscriptions that you can be a part of. If you own your own truck, you have to be at Landstar for us to help. We will not work with someone that has a truck leased on to another carrier besides Landstar. But if you're at Landstar and you're a BCO there, you can be what we call a mentoring client, and we're going to have a online community that you guys are going to be in here coming up pretty soon called Skool, Skool. We're working on that as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll be part of a community where you will interact with each other. You'll have a monitor in the group, and then we'll do a live with you once a week to answer your questions and help you put into utilization what we teach. The best way to learn this is to come be in our master class program. Typically, you're going to come here and drive one of our trucks, but if you own your own truck, we can still work with you on that. We would put your truck in our system, in our fleet, and you would drive your truck in our system, and you would get paid as the driver and as the truck owner. You get paid on a 2-check system. But we can discuss all those with you on an individual Zoom meeting. You go to our website, www.blueribbonlogistics.com, and click on Drive for Us or something like that. And it will give you a form that you can submit, and then we'll reach out to you with a calendar where you can pick an appointment time, and we will talk with you. There's no charge for that, but we do charge if you want us to give you one-on-one consultation, not related to coming here and being in the program. We do charge for our time, except for tonight. Friday nights are free. It always will be free. But if you call us and want us to give you advice about your business, or if you want me to come and unfuck your business, you're going to pay for that. Okay, it's not free. So, anything out, Chris?
Somebody said, "Do you hire Trump supporters?" Listen,
we don't care who you support.
I don't really give a shit.
We do not credit or discredit Trump or Biden for anything. It doesn't affect us. It doesn't really affect you if you turn the news off and quit thinking about it.
Yeah, I don't.
It has no effect on your life whatsoever. If you think it does, that's your problem.
Does Pittsburgh Power offer anything that you recommend to put in fuel to help keep DPF filter clean? Yes,
Absolutely. It's called the
absolutely.
Max Mileage Fuel-Borne Catalyst.
You
Um,
can buy it on our website at
on our
Blue River
website, you
Industries.
can come by Charleston and pick it up, or we can ship it to you, or you can buy from Pittsburgh Power. Either one, doesn't really matter.
It's
Um,
sold and truck stops, but you're going to pay
yeah,
dearly.
the big truck stops have it, like the Iowa 80s and the Petro out in what you call it in Kansas, and it's not in every truck stop, but it's going to be expensive. It's going to be over $300 a gallon out there.
Mhm.
Where with us, what is it, 215,
230,
220, something like that, 230?
230,
Okay.
yeah.
It treats 3,200 gallons, so it's not like you're going to go through it. It's going to last you like a month or so.
Yeah. Ours is
Mm.
230. You can pick it up at the shop in Charleston, and not pay shipping, or we can ship it to you.
Right.
Um, da, 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 da. How do you expect owning the shop will affect your 25% or 25 cent per mile maintenance cost? It's helping.
It will go
Um,
down because we're paying less labor and we're not doing the stuff twice.
right. When for the longest time we had a guy named Carl Bonecutter who started out as a TA mechanic, eventually went on his own. And Carl was kind of our guy. And the running joke was with Carl, hey, what you going to do about this? Because every time he got under the truck, he had such character that he would, and every truck, it wasn't just ours. It was every truck he got under. Hey, man, you better look at this and you better look at that. And Carl did such an amazing job keeping our trucks up. Well, unfortunately, Carl got very ill and had to have a double lung transplant. He's still recovering from. So he's been out of the loop for a couple of years. And last year, I started working on the trucks, and I realized how about a year without Carl had left our trucks in a pretty serious state of disrepair. And so I have spent the last 6 or 8 months just little thing by little thing by little thing, and I've gotten the trucks in a lot better shape than they had been. So absolutely, us having a place to do work not only efficiently because our rates are not stupid, but we do it right. We hired a guy named Kyle. He was on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, and he's God mighty, he's fantastic. He doesn't know everything that Carl knows, but man, he learns so quickly, and his attention to detail is just incredible. So yes, us doing the work on our trucks is going to make a major difference and probably get that cost down. But you still have junk parts. I mean, good God. Um, do you think trucks with no emissions will be illegal anytime soon? No, I do not. Number one, the as much as everybody thinks the federal government is this magical, mystical creature that can wave its magic wand, um, it's not going to happen. And with the Chevron decision, um, it's not going to make emissions go away, but these agencies are going to have a lot more difficulty just issuing a rule. Oh, well, we'll just issue a rule. Okay, well, good luck with that. Because they at least now understand that the judiciary is not forced to just rubber stamp whatever they say. So they're now open to litigation where they never were before. So it's not going to stop it. It's not going to go away. We're not going backwards. We're not going to be taking DPFs off of trucks. But a lot of their grand plans, like this 2027 rule that they're talking about, I bet that that's going to quietly go away. I don't think they may do something, but I don't think they're going to go to the level they can because they know they're now open to litigation. And they know that the judiciary doesn't just have to rubber stamp everything they're doing. So it's a step in the right direction, kind of. Could a driver make 300K and not have to run themselves into the ground? Well, I'm going to answer that a different way. If you want to be in business and you want to stay in business and still have a business, you are going to run yourself into the ground for 3 to 5 years. Okay. Now, see, listen, that's the case in every business. Go talk to a successful home builder and ask him about how much he worked the first 3 to 5 years. Go find a successful car wash entrepreneur. Go find a successful anything. in business that's been in business more than 5 years and ask them what the first 3 to 5 years are going to look like. And you'll watch the collar start to drain out of their face because they'll
Well, let me
back.
describe it this way. An employee runs themselves into the ground because they're working for wholesale and their employer is selling them for retail. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
An entrepreneur doesn't consider working to be running themselves in the ground because they're doing what they chose to do. And it's their decision to do it that way. They're trying to build something up for themselves. That's the difference between an employee and an entrepreneur. So again, if you think that you're going to make 300K as an employee, you're going to have to work yourself into the ground and maybe even below the ground to get there, because you're going to get paid based on your worth.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going to build a business, you're going to have to work yourself in the ground to build that business up. But then there's going to come a point in time where you're going to be able to take your foot off your neck, and you're not going to have to do that. That's the whole purpose of doing it, is to build the business up to where you have these freedoms that you're talking about that aren't going to come in year one, but may come in year 5. Or you now have a way to retire where now you have no way to retire. So
Right.
again, it's all in your perspective. It's all perspective. And if you love what you do, you're never working anyway. Okay. Chris and I both work ridiculous hours, but we love what we do. We don't consider it to be work. You know, I don't call him up and tell him to go to the shop and get nasty, funky, sweaty. He does that because he loves doing it.
Right.
You know, we do this because we enjoy doing this. And so we don't consider it run ourselves into the ground. Other people might look at it and think we are, but that's their problem, not ours. But again, it all gets back to perspective again. If you want something that you're going to be, if you want to build an empire that you're going to be able to pass on to your kids or retire or whatever, listen, those don't happen easily. If they did, everybody would have one. Look at the people who are successful and try and do what they do. If what they do is run themselves in the ground, then that's what it's going to take. But I'm telling you that I've been in this trucking business now for about 15 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I've not seen anything here in the trucking business that I would call run yourself into the ground. I mean, you sit in an air-conditioned cab on an air ride seat. I mean, there's a whole lot of shit worse doing than that. Okay.
Hey, when we get when we buy the mirrors for props, I want rolls of wax paper.
Okay.
So we, to put wax paper on the seat so y'all's candy asses won't stick to it.
Yeah.
Skryla 2000 asks on TikTok, would Landstar hire me owning a 2006 Pete? Remember, it's no emissions. Well, Skryla, no, Landstar will not hire you, because Landstar is not going to hire you to work in the corporate office with a 2006 Peterbilt, because the only people that work for Landstar are the people that work in Rockford or work in Jacksonville. What they will do is lease your truck, and your business will do business with their business. Landstar will absolutely lease on your 2006 Peterbilt. Landstar will lease anything on that has an electronic engine. So you're talking probably 93 to 95, depending on engine manufacturer and up. So yeah, if it's got an electronic engine and you can plug an ELD into it, you can lease it to Landstar if it will pass a DOT inspection. Talk about real shit, like getting customers and getting away from brokers. Well, I can't get away from brokers. I booked a $4 a mile load yesterday through a Landstar agent with a broker.
Why do you want to get away from the broker?
The brokers aren't the problem. You are.
Getting away from the broker is not going to fix your business.
Right. I'm not trying to get away from brokers. I need brokers because brokers
are our customers. We try to get around brokers. Okay. Because if we prove our value to brokers, guess what they do? They pay us.
Mm-hmm. Now, listen, there's a basic principle in that the closer you get me to the customer, the better off I am. And the better off the customer is. Okay. There's no denying that the best possible relationship with between a truck and a customer is direct. That's um um that's the best way to do it. But you're not always going to do that, and that was what brokers do. They have loads, and I need brokers to give me loads because I don't have a sales force. I don't have a sales team. I don't have time to go knock on doors. That's
Let
what
me
the agents and
let,
brokers are for.
let me tell you this, okay? If you want to get real customers and get away from brokers, okay, you're going to find out that most customers are not going to like you because they don't like the fact that you don't do for them what brokers do for them. And so they're not going to like you. You're not going to get the customer. You're going to have the broker to get the customer for you. But I will tell you this, if you would treat the brokers like your customers, you wouldn't need the customers. They'll become your customers. And they'll do a lot of work for you that you don't really understand what has to be done, like putting on a coat and tie and going out and knocking on doors.
Mhm.
Um, they do something that you guys don't do, okay? And they deserve to get paid for that. You're blaming a broker for your problem is your problem. It's not the
Mhm.
problem. And when you reset your mindset and get that mirror out and look at yourself and fix you and quit worrying about the broker, you'll be fine. You'll be successful. You don't need the broker's part to make yourself successful. You can make enough money as the truck owner and truck driver that the broker can still make what they make and not affect you.
Yep.
Brokers are that's who we serve. That's who we show our value to, our brokers.
I'm looking through comments here. You still get 72%. Okay. All right. I have to
Whatever that means, but yeah.
leased. Yeah, we are leased to a carrier because it absolves us of a lot of risk. That's why we're leased to a carrier.
And they do a lot of work for us that we don't want to do and would have to pay a lot of money to have done properly.
Right. I don't. I have absolutely zero desire to have our own numbers. None. Zero. It's
No,
just not. It's not worth it.
the calculator does not prove it out anyway. So whether we have a desire or not, it's not going to happen. We make decisions based on the calculator.
Hey, our guy Blake's in the comments. Most can't afford the cost of customer acquisition.
There
We
you
need
go.
to get
Good
Blake on
point.
this.
Good.
We need to get Blake.
Nor do they have the ability to maintain the customer after acquisition.
Do you guys buy from Ritchie Brothers? No.
I have bought from Rich Brothers one time.
In the since I've been here, we buy trucks off Facebook pretty much.
Yeah, individuals primarily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Facebook Marketplace is where we find them. And I'm gonna tell you something getting to be around a shop has opened my eyes. I have now seen this about 3 times just in the last few weeks. A truck comes in, broke down. We find the problem. We tell the customer, okay, here's what's wrong with it. Well, like one, okay, was a DD15 that had 2 dead cylinders. We'll just fix those 2. No, absolutely not. We're not going to fix just 2 cylinders and then have one of the other 4 go down and you blame us. No, thank you. Well, man, I just need to get it back together and get it to the auction. Oh, and I've heard this same phrase on 4 different trucks. Well, I'm not really interested in fixing it right. I just want to get it to the auction. Yeah, that's pretty much put the auctions off for me. That's gonna be a no from me, dog. No thanks.
Robert, what do you think is going to come of the EPA determination that they are not lawmakers? Well, we just talked about that.
A hissy fit. There will be many hissy fits thrown.
Yeah, but again, understand something. That's not earth shattering. Okay, go about your business. That's just a distraction. Quit worrying about it.
Like I said before, I think it's going to be kind of interesting to watch because at least now they know they're open to litigation, which is something they've never had to deal with. They've had pretty much a blank check. They could do whatever the hell they want. The Chevron decision made it to where the judge had to side with them if a lawsuit was brought. Now there's going to be some sort of strategy. I figure we'll see it play out in the next year, probably after the election is settled, where someone is going to sue somehow, and that will begin to work its way through the courts. But guys, that stuff takes years.
And these automatic emissions requirements that are making, like those are all gonna be challenged now.
Yeah.
Um,
But they're not going away.
But again, just run your business. Don't sit around thinking that's going to be what saves your business or makes you successful all of a sudden. That it's not. It might have some, trickle down effect on you down the road, but that's a distraction. Work on your cost per mile. Lower your cost per mile. Serve your customer. Be more valuable. That will fix all your problems right now to where that won't even be an issue for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that the challenge is not going to come from diesel. The challenge is going to come from, I think, the racing community, because there's a lot of people there with a lot more money than some average truck driver. And a lot of those guys have had their lives turned upside down by the EPA.
And the small engine industry.
I think
Mhm.
that's where the challenge is going to come from. So if anything gets overturned, but guys, we're talking years for this stuff to get through the courts. So that's enough about that. OEM or aftermarket? Be more specific. Now I will say this: we just bought an aftermarket engine kit and head for a Detroit. This will be our first foray into using non-OEM parts to rebuild an engine. Some of it's PAI and some of it's Interstate McBee. We bought it from Highway and Heavy Parts. Shout out to Hack Nation. He pretty much is the one that convinced me to do this. The price wasn't all that different. What was different is if we would have bought an OEM kit, we would have had to pay $1,900 core charge for the head. And I talked to a guy that told me that they are more and more rejecting cores. Well, that right there takes the cost of the OEM kit and adds a potential $2,000 to it, where the aftermarket kit comes with a brand new head, which means I get to keep my head, and I can send my head to the machine shop and have it worked over. And so I end up with two heads instead of one if my head is good. So, that's that's kind of what pushed it over for us. And we need to try it. And I would love to try a set of speed of air pistons in a truck. We're not there yet. It's not something we're really in a position to do yet, but I would love to put a set of speed of air pistons in a truck and see what happens, test it out. Does Landstar provide fuel cards? Yes. And do they charge a surcharge? Not well. You pay $1.75 anytime you load the card.
You're using a word that has a different meaning for most people. Surcharge is what the carrier charges a customer for a fuel adjustment.
Right.
So if that's what you're asking, yes, they charge a surcharge, and it's passed 100% on through to the truck. But if you're asking if there's fees for using their fuel cards, that's a different question. And the answer to all that is yes, yes, and yes.
Yeah. Is there $1.75 when you buy fuel? There's not.
No, just when you're
load it.
transacting the card.
Yeah. Transaction fee. Yeah.
Yeah.
Steven says, I want to start a trucking company. What do I need to start? $1 million.
Episode 1. And have a very good reason for wanting to do that.
He says, I guess, it's Robert says about 30K. He says, what do I need to start? Robert says about 30K. He says, I have one truck just bought and I have a driver on standby.
Well, fire him.
Listen, Stephen, here's what you got to understand. and Larry found this out. You will never hire you to drive your truck. Okay. We had a guy, and it's a perfect example. We had a guy call us. This was probably 2 years ago. It was Halloween. I remember that. He called us, and he was failing at Landstar. His truck was about to be repossessed. He had found the YouTube podcast, and he said, listen, I'm going belly up, and my truck's getting repossessed, and I need to come and I need you guys to teach me the right way, because obviously I've done it the wrong way. And we're like, hey man, that's the perfect attitude. We got you. Now, this was at the time we were still, this doesn't happen anymore, but we used to pay their way to get here, and we paid for their hotel, and we paid all our meals, and boy, could this old boy eat. And we spent an entire weekend with him, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we probably spent 3 8-hour days with this guy, teaching and training and talking. And so we put him in the truck. He said, well, I need to get a load home to load up the truck. I'm like, not a problem. So I got him a load to Wisconsin, and he abandoned the truck, and I had to go after it. It's going to happen. Now, fortunately, we've only had one abandoned. We had one that got fired in Texas, and I sent somebody after it. But understand, they're not going to get the fuel mileage you get. They're not going to take care of the truck the way you do. They're not going to drive that truck the way you do. They have a great propensity to destroy that truck from the inside out.
Just read all the comments that have been in this live tonight. That's who you're hiring, okay? So if that doesn't make your blood boil, then you're good to go. But if that does, understand something. This is the problem with this industry, is trying to get people to drive your truck that aren't truck drivers.
Hugo Mendoza, can you lease a truck from Landstar, live in California, and go to you guys? No, and no. Number one, Landstar does not own trucks. Landstar is what's called an asset light carrier. They own some flatbeds. They do not own any trucks. They do not lease trucks. Now, they have some kind of handshake deal with LOAN Mountain, where if Landstar will qualify you as a driver, Lone Mountain will give you a truck.
And that's still a big no. You're not going to do business that way and come here. Okay.
Yeah. And we're not going to work with you, if you do that, because, I don't need,
because we don't work with idiots or assholes. I already have one. I don't need any more.
Yeah. Listen, we talk about this all the time. Being in business is hard, and it's even harder if you do stuff like lease trucks from carriers. If you don't have the money to buy a truck, you don't need to own a truck.
Yeah, you don't need to be in business if you don't have the money to be in business.
Right.
And I'm sorry about that, but there's no way to fix that. Get a job, save money. That's the only way you can. You can't go around. There's no shortcut around opening a business and not having the capital. Then you can't fix that.
But wait, there's more. Steven says, my driver is my best friend of 20 years.
Oh, run.
He's a new driver. Wait a minute. Ain't done. He's a new driver to Werner, been driving 7 months. Steven, here's what I want you to do. I want you to
Do you own a gun? Do you own a gun?
Open
your mouth and stick it in your mouth and pull the trigger.
Go to a church building or like a courthouse or something that has a really rough face brick wall. And I want you to just lay both hands, and I want you to slam your forehead into that brick wall as hard as you can until you pass out. And then when you wake up, I want you to remember that I said, please don't do this. Yeah. I hired my best friend. Okay. And we ran team together. And I love that man like a brother. Okay. And we got along great. Me and him didn't have any issues. Now, he had a wife. Well, it was a whole nother story. Okay. No, please. If you value your best friend,
There are so many
We-
red flags in that little conversation you just had there. I'm going to tell you right now, you're making the biggest mistake you'll ever make in your life. Whatever it is you've done that you look back and going, "Whoa, that was stupid." This is going to be 10x that.
Yeah.
Do not do this.
Please,
Do
God,
not do this.
please don't. Please don't. Do you lease on the Landstar or Blue Ribbon? You lease on the Landstar. We are just a fleet of trucks leased to Landstar. We do not have an authority. We don't have our own numbers. We run under.
Well, let me clarify that, okay? We have trucks here that we do not own. I own a handful of them, but most of the trucks here I don't own
Mhm.
because we are also a light asset company by choice. So we do have people lease trucks to us as truck owners that we use in our program that they get the benefit from. But that is a very, 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 very exclusive group of people. We are not looking to add to that. So the answer to that question is yes, you could lease a truck here, but it's not like you think it is. It's to use in our program. And then we will turn around and lease it to Landstar under our fleet. And you'll sign what's called a release of revenue so that I get the money from it before you get it. And then I pay you after we pay the driver and the expenses.
Robert says, I had my brother drive my truck while I was mobilized for the Navy and fired him so fast.
Yeah, well, that's remember how that was, okay? First of all, it's a bad idea to go in business with your family or friends. The only thing that's going to happen to that is Thanksgiving is going to get very awkward and you're not going to like your friend anymore.
Yeah.
So if you
Terrible,
like your
terrible.
friend, the last thing you want to do is go in business with them, okay? That always ends up bad. But
Stephen, I don't want to destroy your dream. Okay. Cause there's some validity to it. Okay. Obviously we have multiple trucks, right? And we hire people to drive those trucks. But I've just got you to get to understand that what you're wanting to do, while possible, is very, 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 very difficult. Okay. It has a 95% chance of failure. It's about 99.9% chance of failure if you do it with your friends or family. What we do here, okay, is we take people that have the desire to be an owner operator, and we say, okay, the statistics say, not me, the statistical evidence is that 95% of first time owner operators fail in the first 2 years. We're going to take someone and put him on our truck, and we're going to get that number from 95 down below 50. Okay. It's still risky. It's still hard. Okay. But we're going to take that 95% chance of failure and we're going to get it under 50% if you'll listen and do what we tell you to do, and you'll learn. And if you're already an owner operator, we're going to take that same 95% and we're going to try to get it below 50. It's harder because if you're driving one of my trucks as an employee, I just tell you what the hell to do and you do it, or else. But if you're a BCO and you own your own truck, well, I don't have that kind of authority over you. I can strongly recommend that you do or don't do things, but I have absolutely no authority over you. I try to influence you best I can, but I have watched guys come in and be mentored by us and then go out of business. And it wasn't a revenue problem. I was the dispatcher. One guy put almost $600,000 on, and he still went broke. Why? Bad decisions, bad decision making. Being in business is hard.
Uncoachable.
FR, me and my wife are in business together. Well, that's different.
Still hard. Still hard.
We talked about this earlier. Would Landstar be good for team drivers? Yes and no, but not in the way you're probably thinking. There are incredible opportunities for teams after you have kind of done your diligence and you've built relationships. And I mean, listen, there are husband and wife teams at Landstar making obscene
but
amount.
That doesn't mean you're going to come here and do that. There are teams
Right.
here that make good money. There are solos here to make good money, but it's got nothing to do with the fact that you're coming here as a husband and wife. you guys are looking for this automatic guarantee. That's not Landstar is not going to provide that for you. Um, you can come here and be successful in Landstar, but you can also go everywhere else. If you're successful here, you can be successful anywhere.
Right.
Landstar is not going to make it or break it. How you run your business is going to decide it. Landstar presents some opportunities for you here, but there's no. I mean, listen, it's far from a guarantee.
If you came to Landstar, you're not going to run team like you're thinking of running team. You're going to run super solo.
Super solo. You're going to run 2 logbooks.
Yeah.
That's all you're going to do. Now,
you know,
if you come to Landstar, we will coach you and we will mentor you if you'll listen and if you're not a stupid truck driver. That's the one advantage of coming to Landstar is that we will work with you. We won't work with you at Werner or Schneider or all the other places.
Yeah.
So that's one advantage of coming to Landstar is that you can work with us if we will accept you. Now that's a big if, I'll tell you.
Yeah. What you have to realize, it's not about being team or solo. Okay. You have revenue. A business needs revenue. A team can make more revenue than a solo. So right now, our goal is $8,000 a week for a solo. All right. Van, platform, whatever. That's our goal. So Larry's always said that a team should plan on doing 1.5 what a team does. So, or a solo does. So you should be $12,000 a week. That should be your goal. Well, you can probably do a bunch of that with solo freight, that maybe it's a first come, first serve place. You just pick it up today and deliver it tomorrow, where the solo would have to do it in 2 days. So, you would want a like $3,500 load for the weekend, and you would want some 700 or 800 mile $2,000 loads during the week. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, right? 5 loads a week, $2,000 a day during the week, $4,000 for a weekend load, and do 12 grand a week. 12 grand a week. Let's see, is going to equate to 12, about $8,600 in revenue to the truck. You're probably going to run 4,000 to 4,500 miles a week. So at 45 cents a mile in fuel, you're going to make pretty good money. And then you use that time to build relationships and make contacts and practice being a really good communicator. And then one day you'll bump into somebody and they will introduce you to somebody, and you'll get on AA&E, ammunition explosives, or you'll get on government freight. And then you'll have the money to go write a check for one of them big house sleepers that cost $10,000 an inch. Nathaniel Garcia, how can I get more information about your coaching? BlueRibbonLogistics.com is right there on the bottom of the screen.
What are these pink things that are showing up at the top of my screen, Chris?
Right
there's one.
Rose or whatever.
Yeah, what is that?
It's some kind of little gift thing on TikTok. I don't even know.
I just keep seeing these pink things flying across. I think I should be doing something.
Yeah.
Somebody wants us to warn you that you're going to have to work hard to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You probably didn't realize that, but you're going to have to stay in the truck for weeks on end. You'll live in the truck. So they want to maybe make sure to tell you that this is going to require you guys to spend a lot of time in the truck together.
How does one get into AA&E relationship?
Relationships.
You
put in your time, make the right contacts, provide the right value. Mm-hmm. That's a competitive thing. You just can't join. You're asked to be a part of it based on your performance. But it's an exclusive, elite group of people that make a lot of money.
Robert says that what you're seeing, it shows that lives are gifted a TikTok universe, which is the most expensive gift. Okay.
Well, thank you if that's a compliment. I still don't understand what it is, but
just send me a check. Just send me a check. I'll just take a check. Well, listen, we've gone way over our normal time, 2 hours and 39 minutes.
It's been a good night.
So I'm going to tell you, if you like some of what you've heard here, go to blueribbonlogistics.com, read thing about all about our stuff, and come see our shop in Charleston, West Virginia. We do alignments and we sell Pittsburgh Power and OPS. We do the installs there. This is episode 215, all of which are on YouTube and Facebook. Most of them on YouTube. So just take your time. Be curious. I want you to be curious. I want you to ask questions. But a lot of those questions could be answered, and y'all ain't got nothing to do but listen, right? So just go turn on the YouTube and just let her play. There's all kinds of stuff there to just blow your mind wide open. And because everything that we have talked about here tonight is on those 215 episodes, and they're usually an hour and a half to 2 hours each. We do, as you have seen, we do audience participation. We're working on some new projects for education. The YouTube channel name is Blue Ribbon Logistics, Blue Ribbon Podcast. Go to the link in bio on TikTok, and there's a link there. It's got links to all of our stuff right there. There's audios on Apple Podcast and Spotify and all that.
We are here to teach. It's what we enjoy doing, teaching. But you have to first of all accept it, open your mind, and be willing to listen to things and not have all these prejudices. And then you have to desire it, and we have all these ways of doing it, but you have to take the first step. The first step is the website, www.blueribbonlogistics.com. You can go there and read about the masterclass program if that suits you. If that doesn't suit you, then we have a mentoring program. It's there. If you own your own truck and you're already at Landstar, you need to be in the mentoring program. If you don't own your own truck, you need to come here and get in our masterclass program before you buy the truck, so you don't make all the mistakes that you're going to make if you don't do that. And you can start learning all this without the risk of having to buy your own truck. We do have a couple of open seats right now. So, I mean, the timing would be good for you. The process is about a 4 to 6 week process to get you qualified at Landstar. Then we have to get you to West Virginia for a weekend. Then we have to get you to Indianapolis for a Landstar day. And then you'll pull freight and start making money the next day. But this is what we do, and this is what we teach. But we teach business. We don't really teach trucking. We teach business. It works. Business is business. I don't care what you do. But we've got experience in the trucking industry, and so we can make it specific to trucking. And if you're already in the trucking, and we last thing we want to do is recruit people in the trucking industry. But if you're already in it and you're struggling because you think the rates are your problem or the brokers are your problem, whatever the problem are, we can refocus you into what things that you can control and fix without you having to worry about things that are beyond your control. There's plenty of things you can control that will get your business back on track to where you don't have to worry about things that are out of your control. And but you have to quit listening to the news and these idiots on Facebook and social media that think that they want to blame everybody else except themselves. One thing we do require here is accountability. We require accountability. You are going to be held accountable here. And if that's a problem for you, don't come. I mean, you know that up front. We're not going to sweet talk. We're not going to sugarcoat things. You fuck up, we're going to tell you how bad you fucked up and how much it cost you to make that stupid mistake. And Chris is going to love every minute of it. He sleep like a baby that night, okay?
Yeah.
So if you think you're going to hurt his conscience, I got news for you, okay? But I mean, we're here to help you, and we will. I mean, we have helped a lot of people. We have a lot of people who have given us lots of praise over the years for saving them money, saving their lives, saving their business, blah, 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 blah. But I mean, we've done it. I did it, and then I thought it would work, and then Chris was my proof of what's the word? Proof
Concept.
of concept, yeah. And that gave us more, cockiness, and our success breeds success. And but we're pretty good at what we do, and we enjoy what we do. and we enjoy helping other people. That's we get a little bit of money for doing this, but we enjoy the success that you guys get as just as much as we enjoy the money that we get out of doing this. So, but anyway, we got some new things coming out. It's going to be called SKOOL School. You may have seen it already on TikTok or some other stuff, but we're going to have some different communities that you can be a part of based on what your situation is. We'll have a community for people that want to learn accounting. We'll have a community for people that want to learn dispatching. We'll have a community for people that want to be mentoring clients and all these different topics. So, and you'll participate with a monthly subscription, and you can stay as long as you want and leave whenever you want. And it'll be interactive because you'll be talking to everybody else in the community, and Chris or I or one of our management team will be the monitor of that group, and we'll be doing lives with you every week so that we can one-on-one with you if you have questions and we need to help you get whatever it is implemented that you're working on. But we're just trying to open up ways that we can be available to help you guys. Okay, you guys are with Landstar. We will be at the BCO days in Oklahoma in the end of September. So come find us, and don't bring any weapons, but come find us and talk to us if you want to. I always have a 1099 argument there at some point in time, so you probably can watch that happen.
I'm gonna have him mic'd up this time. I didn't have the mics on him last time, but he'll be mic'd up this time. I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.
But anyway, we're here to help you if you really want to be helped. But I need to emphasize that we have very little tolerance for bullshit. We have zero tolerance for truck driver attitude. And but beyond that, if you're reasonable, you're open-minded, you'll be coachable, you'll look at facts and data and understand that they come from lots of experience. We can help you. We can all of your problems, you don't realize this, but we can fix them, but you could fix them. We can help you fix them, but you have to want to do that. We'll help. We will match your energy, and help you do that. So anyway, that's my pitch for the night. So anyway, we've gone way too long. Good night, everybody. Be safe. We look forward to seeing you guys in Oklahoma in September. And other than that, I guess we're here next Friday night, Chris.
Yep. Yeah. Black Power 340 is asking, will there be a Reset Your Mindset event this year? No, there will not.
No, there will not be. As most of you all know, I had a medical event in January, and this is just not the year to do that. So we're going to replace that with the school community and do it interactively. All the content will be in school groups. We're going to make the school groups are actually based on the slides from the event. So you guys in the past have been bitching and moaning about being able to do it online. Now you're going to get a chance to do it. So show us that you weren't just bullshitting.
Hey, Landon, I'm going to give you a piece of advice. Your comment says all you did was talking about helping, but not help. I'm confused. Well, dude, you came in on the last probably 15 minutes of an almost 3-hour discussion. All right. This is episode number 215 that we have done. What we're telling you is what we can do and what we're capable of. But you're going to have to initiate some curiosity, and if what you've heard here has piqued your interest, then go on over to the YouTube, pick any one of the 215 episodes, and start listening, and then you'll learn that way. But you're not going to get some great revelation coming 15 minutes into a almost 3-hour discussion, right?
So we don't have a set of cassettes that we sell you, our program. It's not like that. We share information with you, and we do a lot of it for free. All those 215 episodes are free, absolutely free, no charge, no funnel, nothing. And then if you want to get closer to us, then there's some subscription options that are available to you. But that's entirely up to you. So anyway,
all right. Well,